And they've agreed a fee with Brentford over midfielder Christian Norgard. But a new development in the Benjamin Šeško saga. He's apparently followed the Gunners on Instagram, but that took a bit of explaining to Alan Brazil on breakfast.
That's the thing now in today's age, Al. If you follow someone on Instagram, it's a thing. It's a match. I'm not even kidding. It must mean something.
Do you know what that means, though? No.
Like
so if I followed you, do you know what I mean?
There's something there.
Yeah, there's something there, mate.
Now to the Lions, where Andy Farrell's named 13 changes for the side to take on Western Force this weekend. Ireland hooker Dan Sheehan comes in to captain the side, while Sione Tuipulotu and Tyke Byrne are the only players to keep their place from the defeat to Argentina. The Lions' first game down under is live on talkSPORT on Saturday morning. And do you fancy boogieing on down with Gianni Infantino and some of the biggest names at FIFA? Well, good news. FIFA's throwing a celebration party for the Club World Cup in New York, and just how successful it's been. One snag, it'll cost you somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 to go. Or you could stay in the UK and listen to the tournament live on talkSPORT. Man City v Juventus next up tonight from 7.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT. So, England's under-21s make it back-to-back Euros finals after victory over the Dutch. Now, can they do it again? What their senior counterparts couldn't do, and that is get over the line. Meantime, days out from Wimbledon. We'll be joined in studio live by a man who is no stranger to SW19, the Australian tennis player Nick Kyrgios. Also today, is it still very much in Benham and Bloom we trust? Do we need to prepare for the weather monathon at next summer's World Cup? We'll keep you across the EFL fixtures as they drop, with Ipswich Town Chief Executive Mark Ashton joining us live, and we go through all the top boxing stories with fight pundit Spencer Oliver. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan. We're live in talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Now then, you are quite tall, aren't you?
6'2".
6'2". I, as you know, I'm 6 foot. Not quite.
In Cuban Hills, yeah.
Ollie, the producer of The Breakfast Show, is a big, tall lad.
He's a tall lad.
But I've just bumped into Nick Kyrgios, who's going to be joining us live. What a unit he is. Yeah. Wow.
He's a big lad. A lot of tennis players are big lads. I mean, you look at Jack Draper, he's a big lad. You know, look at John Isner. He was a super big lad.
Whatever happened to him?
Well, I think he ran his course, didn't he? But if I think
we'll get lively. He's a controversial figure, Simon. He knows it. And I think with Nick, he's not afraid to take on any topic, which is great.
I think he's probably less of a controversial figure off the court than he may be on it and in the press conferences. And listening to some of the stuff that he was doing on the Breakfast Show the other day, he's quite a mild-mannered chap, isn't he? Let's see if we can unseat that a little.
Exactly. I watched a bit of the Club World Cup, Danny Murphy's favourite competition, last night. I saw Borussia Dortmund won by a single goal to nil, but I also took in, I don't know if you saw it, England's under-21s. And again, as I said in the introduction, they're in another final, and they could well retain this tournament, but they could well retain the trophy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a credit to the young setups. It's a blueprint for hopefully translating these players into the full team. I mean, obviously, a couple of years ago, we were talking about the impossible job that Eddie Boothroyd was suggesting was that ultimately the main function is to get these good players in and out of the 21s into the national side, and winning things isn't the predominant focus, which I think is absolute nonsense, because winning is something that you have to, seed into the culture of a team of individuals and people. And the 21s, once upon a time, was a phenomenal place to be.
Yeah.
It was the gateway for the full team. You had so many different talented players in there. But obviously, as we see, there's also this bypassing of the 21s. When the best players land, they land in the national side straight away, whether that be Wayne Rooney, whether it be Jude Bellingham, or whether it be the young kid in Spain playing for the Spanish first team. But I think if you're in a tournament, whatever level that you're at, whatever age group you're at, the mindset should be to win it. And of course, what it does then is it creates a temperature and a culture of why can't that translate? Because there is a difference between playing at a certain level of football and then playing in the ultimate full level of world football. But these are good things. This is a good, healthy barometer of things that are going well within the confines of our setups.
Yes.
And so we should take some stock from it.
You're right, though. We had an interesting conversation with Martin and Neil. I'll get to that, about why success at this level doesn't necessarily translate to the senior level. But the fact of the matter is England's under-21s, with Harvey Elliott and others, are in the final again. They will now face Germany in Saturday's final after their 3-0 win over France. The last time, after the Germans' 3-0 win over the French, the last time the England under-21s reached 2 consecutive finals was 41 years ago. Can you believe that? Dave Sexton. Do you remember Dave Sexton, Simon?
I mentioned him the other day in conjunction with Martin O'Neill.
Yeah.
So it shows you that actually when you look at it, because I was thinking as I was saying, this is a good indicator, it's a good barometer, and I was thinking to myself, but back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, were our 21s doing quite well? And I'm thinking that in the back of my mind, and now you're reinforcing that by saying
They were indeed.
And yet we had not particularly a great national side again.
Well, exactly. So it's a kind of mirror image. So is this generation showing signs that they can do what their senior counterparts have struggled to do, and that is go over the line? Lee Carsley's delighted, and well done to him, because the under-21s are showing the absolute quality that exists within that squad.
A lot of the teams are affected by the Club World Cup. We've tried not to make any excuses of the players that aren't here and tried to really push and value the players that are here. We're very lucky, like you say there, with the amount of players that we've got available to us. We've got so much quality, but more importantly, we've got a squad that believe that they can win. Which there's not a lot of hope. There's more belief, which is important to, if we're going to go that one step more, which is generally the hardest step now, is getting over the line. But I'm so proud of them, and hopefully you've enjoyed watching us during this tournament. We said in St George's that it may be a bit clunky to start with, but the team would get better as we went on, and they've definitely showed that.
I think it was the final of the Virtue Trophy. It was Darren McAntony's Peterborough against Birmingham. I was chatting to Lee, and he's a good lad, and I like him. After falling out of the running, Simon, during his brief interim spell, I wonder how much might the Euro success put Lee back into the FA and the fans thinking post the World Cup
for the main job.
Yeah.
Well, there was always that thought process, wasn't there? I mean, he stepped up into an environment that I didn't think he was prepared for. I didn't think he was a big part of the England manager's job, be it right or be it wrong, is communication. Because we're not talking about a domestic manager that's managing players on a day-to-day basis. We're talking about a manager that's picking players, trying to set them up.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, communicating messages and interacting with the media. And he didn't come out of that the way that you would anticipate that someone that was capable of managing England would do. But putting him there, I don't know how good a coach he is or he isn't. Right? I'm assuming that he's a relatively reasonable coach, otherwise he wouldn't be in the position that he's in.
Yeah.
Now, does that translate to being the England manager? Well, it's translated in other countries when you've seen youth managers coming through and being put into control of the national side, specifically and explicitly the Spanish. And so you'd like to think that was something that was achievable. I can't help but be in the mindset, and whether it's a limited mindset on my part, that you put winners in to win. And winning at one level, if you win at the big levels, if you step out of a domestic game having been a really successful manager and go into the international field, you take that aura, you take that level of communication which concentrates the minds of the players very quickly with you, even if you're not working on a domestic level. So taking someone from a setup that's youth level, successful in its own right, and then translating into a different space where it really hasn't operated, it really hasn't managed in, is always an element of risk.
Yeah.
and specifically with a culture, and I hate to say it, and I'm not being mean-spirited, the culture of English players and the English game, to me, it's often different than the culture in other countries. So it makes it easier for maybe a youth team coach to step up in Spain and manage the national side than it might do in this country. But if he goes through this curve of having stuck his head above the parapet, got it smacked about a little bit, and made observations about what anthems he should sing and how he sang and the way that he handled it, and he was under arousing, wasn't he? When you listen to Lee Carsley, you didn't come out of that feeling that you were in the hands of someone that knew precisely what he was doing, and that was his style. Now, going back to the 21s, having seen that, watching England, and if the succession programme is to revisit it again in a year's time, we don't know. If Tuchel wins the World Cup, who knows right, what happens in that space? But again, I mean, what you can say in the here and now is that the 21s win the European Championships.
Yeah.
Then Lee Carsley is doing what he's supposed to do as the 21s manager. And then, of course, after that, then you've got to say which one of his players are going to be candidates. You know, Liam Delap would have been number 21s if Chelsea hadn't called him.
Right.
And how much, again, the other part of it is how much of this is really down to the clubs. When we talk about the talent of footballers now, the domestic clubs are producing such a highbrow level of players that the international setup is almost getting them ready to go, just, you know, plug and play.
Sure. I would have thought England fans, Simon, would want to hear from the senior players what Harvey Elliott is saying about the under-21s. We can take on any team. The fear isn't there. There is no fear. It's just about us going out and delivering what we are doing. And when it gets to that...
Oh, to be fair, let's compare eggs with eggs.
Have no fear.
To be fair, that's precisely what Kyle Walker was saying in Qatar. And I remember being so impressed with Kyle Walker in the manner that he handled the media and suggesting that England had no fear of anybody, that they could win these games.
Simon, you and I were in Germany for 5 weeks. England showed a bit of stage fright now and again.
No, they showed a bit of victim complex, is what they showed, because or whether they decided to find that as a motive. Some people need something to rub up against, to have some sort of extra emphasis on what they're doing. The crying and the lack of resilience from the England players because people dared to criticise them. You know, the media isn't there to write a PR section. I have my issues with certain sections of the media that go down a narrative and don't actually research it. But the fact of the matter is, you didn't have to research how England were playing in the Euros, and you're not supposed to be cheerleaders. You are You are supposed to support your country. You are supposed to highlight the best parts of it and stop worrying about self-flagellating.
Yeah.
But the fact that the England setup enabled a sort of whining victim culture that was, sorry, with due respect, it was exemplified by Jude Bellingham's response a few times.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of didn't like something that you popped up and saw.
I met him outside the lift. Yeah.
And the victim complex is developed. It's not a winning mentality. But also I understand that if it galvanises people, then it may well be an ingredient. But going to the point, in the 2022 World Cup, people like Kyle Walker were robust. They were like, we're not frightened of anybody.
Yeah.
In this instance, the team wasn't playing well, and the culture of the whole tournament was slightly different.
Yeah. Interestingly, yesterday, elsewhere, it was a rise Sir Gareth. He became just the 7th football manager to be given the honour of a knighthood. We've had Sir Alf Ramsey, Sir Matt Busby, Sir Alex, of course, Sir Bobby Robson, Sir Kenny Dalglish, Sir Walter Winterbottom, now Sir Gareth. Was he due it? Does the cap fit?
By modern day standards, probably. If you read that list out again, I don't know what Walter Winterbottom won, right? But I do know that every other one of those managers won something.
Right.
So with that in mind, what we gave was a peerage for strong participation. And if that is what we revere and that's what we suggest in society, I mean, obviously Gareth Southgate, the country was behind them in the 2021 or the 2020, which carried over to 21 Euros.
Yeah.
They were behind them in the 2022 World Cup. The low standards that we set in 2016 in Iceland were picked up by Southgate and taken to a different level. And so if that means that you give somebody a peerage for that, and if that's a standard that you look across the other peerages that are given in sport. So Andy Murray, if I am correct, he won Wimbledon. So Steve Redgrave, I think he won Olympic golds.
Yeah.
And I can go on.
Winners.
I can suspect.
Winners. Will Gareth's strong period of strong participation stand the test of time?
Well, the problem with that situation is that once the expectation started to increase on the England side, the performances started to slightly diminish. And the World Cup wasn't, we got to the quarterfinals against the French and should have taken that game. I think we should have beaten the French. I think there was an opportunity there.
Sure.
And we didn't play well during that tournament. We were dreadful against the US. I remember sitting with you in Qatar watching this game thinking it was dreadful. And so what happened was that when Gareth came in, expectation was at rock bottom, and even the media had given up. They didn't even bother, criticising him because they weren't worth criticising.
Yeah.
Gareth took it from that position after Sam and rebuilt it inch by inch, yard by yard. And of course, we got to the semi-finals of the World Cup in 2018 against Croatia. Missed an opportunity there, but everyone was on side. We're going in the right direction. Then we get to the European Championships, and the expectation levels are up. And then, of course, we're hearing the backstory of how everyone's getting on together. Gareth's very media-facing, very affable, very nice bloke. So what is his legacy? His legacy was that we got a better outcome against lesser opposition in tournaments that previously we might not have done, but we didn't win anything. Now, Tuchel has dismantled some of that because, with due respect to what Tuchel said when he came through the door, he cocked a snook at all that.
Right.
He said no identity, no this, no that. So what is the legacy? The legacy is that I think Gareth Southgate is a good statesman. I think he's a thoroughly decent human being. I think he had a very decent football career, and he's done decent things for England as a manager. And when you listen to Gareth Southgate, you speak to him, you admire him as a bloke.
Yeah.
But in the brutal business of winning, which at the end of the day sport becomes about, I'd rather have a Mourinho or a Conte, as much as I dislike Conte for the way he operates, in a room, knowing that I've got a tiger by the tail, but there's a distinct possibility I'll win, than a very nice statesman that will never offend anybody.
Okay. Sir Gareth, good morning. A lot to get through. Nick Kyrgios live in about 15 minutes. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
Business briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle? Get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. For terms and verification, visit tescomobile.com/business.
Well, that's right. Time for us to round up one of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business. And Simon, today we're going to be discussing In Benham and Bloom We Trust. I'll get to the Bloom bit in a minute, but let's kick off with the Benham bit. Who is Benham? He's Matthew Benham, of course, who is the little seen, little heard of owner of Brentford Football Club.
Former business partner of Tony Bloom's.
Indeed. And I'd forgotten that.
Not sure they're best mates anymore.
Are they not? No. Yeah, like me, you've met Matthew Benham. You probably...
Yeah, in passing. I've met Tony, and I've obviously know Tony's brother quite well because he's always around in Marbella.
Yeah.
But Matthew in passing.
Yeah, I met Matthew Benham when Brentford went up to the Premier League. And he was swift. He was like heading to the dressing room, didn't particularly want to speak, but said it was a great day, of course, for
I
everybody
admire them both.
associated with the football
I
club.
respect them both, absolutely. Yeah. And they deserve, and they're worthy of respect.
When you look at what's going on at Brentford, Arsenal are set to complete the signing of midfielder and captain Christian Norgard in a deal that could rise to £13 million.
Yeah.
They've lost their manager. Thomas Frank is gone and has gone to Tottenham. Their star striker Mbuemo is going to head to Manchester United, it would look like. And now Norgard is out of there. Again, at this stage, if you're a Brentford fan, should you be quite cool, calm and composed with everything you see that's going on? Because you know at the top of the tree, as Palace fans were with you, well, we've got Simon up there. They've got Benham up there. They trust him.
Well, more so with Matthew because he's delivered Premier League football and ultimately sustained it and weathered storms. I mean, this is a real change of direction. I mean, clearly there are reasons why players are leaving for 13 million quid. Because that's not going to make the difference to anybody, is it?
No.
So there's obviously a contractual situation where maybe he's in the last year of his contract and it was already baked into the thinking, and maybe he'd have been going under Thomas Frank anyway.
Right.
So with that in mind, it would have been, more news because of the circumstances surrounding the manager. But you can only judge people by what they do rather than what they say. And what he's done is over the years that he's had this football club, evolved it and evolved it and evolved it and evolved it and evolved it. So they're a good side and they're a good organisation. And I would be far, as I've said previously, this appointment of Keith Andrews, despite the characterisation that's been put on it as a set-piece manager, a set-piece coach, I would think there's far more sophistication and intelligence and awareness behind it. And the reasons why I would think that is because that is the stock in trade of this fella and the organisation that he's run, whoever his CEO, whoever his chairman is, whoever he structures into place to do it, they do it with structure. And if you look at when the Tony departed, where are Brentford going to get their goals from? Didn't miss a beat. He didn't miss a beat when Tony was out for 8 months or 6 months.
True.
And they probably did, but it wasn't so evident.
No, true.
And
true.
They haven't missed a beat
since
he departed. And they've got other players on that side. And Mbuemo's been a good addition, been a good player, been a far better player in the Premier League than I think people thought he was going to be when they came out of the Championship.
Sure. My question really is, Simon, can Brentford really positively come out the other end of this when there is so much transition going on very quickly?
Well, the main transition is the manager. Again, we may well have been talking about their centre midfield player going anyway, because going for 13 million quid tells me that he was not staying at Brentford anyway.
Yeah.
And he's not,
he signed a new deal, though, earlier in the year.
So then that's an interesting one, because why is he only going for, if he's got a new deal and that deal protects Brentford, why is he going for 13 million quid?
I think he had 2 years left in his contract.
13 million quid. I mean, I'm not suggesting that 13 million quid is not a lot in the real world, but in the football world, it's nothing. Right. You buy a 13 million pound player, it doesn't touch the sides of football clubs. They don't actually pay a lot of attention to it. 13 million pound players get put on in the reserves or get put back out on loan to a football club that they got bought from.
So it could be a good signing for Arsenal. Good business for Arsenal.
Clearly he's a good player because Arsenal want him.
Yeah.
And so there must be a motivation. But I look at this and say, okay, the suggestion that Brentford will have some challenges, I think they will have some challenges. But I think that the consideration as to what they're doing and why they're doing it has to have people's faith in it.
So trust Benham.
Absolutely.
Brentford fans trust Matthew Benham. Do Brighton fans totally trust Tony Bloom?
So they bloody well should.
Well, they
should do more than trust Tony Bloom. They should be thanking him from dawn till dusk.
Wonder what Hearts fans think, because Tony Bloom, for those who don't know, has just invested £10 million for a 29% stake of non-voting shares in the Scottish Football Club Hearts. 2 clubs in Edinburgh, Hibs and Hearts. 2 main clubs, that is.
Non-voting shares is a structuring thing, isn't it?
Right. He's spoken for the first time about his £10 million investment in Hearts. He says he's thrilled, sure. I spoke to him at the Brighton Player of the Year dinner. He didn't want to talk to me then that night, but I like Tony and he likes the show. But he says, we can do it. He says, I firmly believe in the club's ability to disrupt the pattern of domination of Scottish football, which has been in place for far too long. In other words, Celtic and Rangers dominating the game up there. But no club outside the traditional Big Two has won the league since Sir Alex's Aberdeen 40 years ago, Simon.
Well, there's the task.
What's 10 million going to do?
Well, nothing.
Is he barking up the wrong tree?
No, but 10 million is the acquisition of other people's shares. So that's what other people have asked for him to buy in the football club. That's not the limitation of his investment. And also, if you've got young players in Brighton's academy that are not quite ready for their first team, he can filter those players into Scottish football. Of course, the converse applies, which means if you get some stars playing in that particular team, you might find them playing in Brighton's team sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
The idea that they're going to disrupt Celtic and Rangers, I think, is for the birds. But notwithstanding it, why not set that as your benchmark? You don't say, well, surely he's not going to come in through the door and say, my objective is to make sure that we stay in the SPFL. People go, what?
No, true.
Don't be silly.
True.
If you shoot for the stars,
yeah,
you might take the moon on the way through, mightn't you?
You know what? They just might. They might. His presence there, his business acumen at heart.
Think about it. Right, you've got a change of ownership in Rangers, so you're gonna awake the beast there. If they're going to do what they say they're going to do, put aside their 20 million nonsense, right?
Yeah.
But they're going to do what they say they're going to do, which is really get hold of Rangers and ring the changes and look at all the things that we say that the other board have been asleep at the wheel doing at Rangers. So they're going to wake up.
Yeah.
Celtic are in fine fettle. Thank you very much. Right, they're living on the myth of how well they did in the Champions League last year to give themselves some extra pomp, right? Because they didn't qualify,
right?
But they got a couple of results in the Champions League because of the way the configuration of teams they played against facilitated their outcome. But they're dominant in their league. But what I would say, and given the fact that I was heavily criticised by your mate Sir Rod about my observations on Scottish football, which he doesn't pay a lot of attention to because I'm not that critical. But the point is, if we get these sort of guys investing in these teams and they make them better, then the only thing that can happen is the league gets better. If the league gets better, then maybe the broadcast deals will get better, and maybe it gets better for everybody.
Sure.
So whilst you would like it not to be, I suspect the Scots would like it not to be an Englishman coming down and putting money in the Scottish Football Club.
Yeah.
Given the fact that the Premier League is owned by everybody but Englishmen in this day and age, I don't suppose it really matters, does it?
Good point. He's on the way after the upcoming 10:30 bulletin. Nick Kyrgios, a man who's not afraid to say what he means and means what he says, is going to be joining us live in the studio. We're going to enjoy it. I hope you do too. Jim White, Simon Jordan this Thursday morning live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
Business briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle? Get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. For terms and verification, visit tescomobile.com/business.
Another summer, another England team in the final of an international competition. This time it's the under-21s looking to go back-to-back in the Euros. Darren Ambrose on talkSPORT commentary last night was thrilled after their 2-1 win over the Netherlands in the semi-final.
The group stage, very underwhelming. They've done the job. They got through exactly what you want to happen in tournament football. But anything but in the quarterfinals and semi-finals, they've been magnificent.
Well, it was Harvey Elliott, the man of the hour, bagging both goals. Lee Carsley couldn't speak higher of him.
I thought he was outstanding. I think he's definitely grown as the tournament's gone on. I think, you know, he was definitely frustrated at the last tournament with the amount of game time he had, but the players that he was competing with, him and Charlie, had to be patient. They showed during the qualifying campaign that they were ready to lead and they were ready to carry the team on.
Now, is that the sort of player Arsenal could do with? Not that he's heading there. Someone who we understand is Brentford's Christian Norgard. We understand the clubs have agreed a fee of around £10 million, but broadcaster and Arsenal fan Harry Symeou's all a bit underwhelmed.
Are Arsenal better off now with Christian Norgard coming in and Martin Zubimendi coming in than they were with Partey and Jorginho and potentially Rice as cover for the 6th role?
Yeah.
And
So have you levelled up?
Have we levelled up? I don't think we've levelled up. I don't even think we're at the same level.
And remember, Man City v Juventus is our live commentary this evening. Build-ups from 7, kick-off from 8.
Good morning, everybody. Already the messages are coming in. Many of you want me to ask our studio guest a question or two about himself, about the world of tennis, about where it's going, etc., etc. And I'm only too happy to do that. 81089 if you want to send me a message or two. Simon's alongside me. Simon Jordan, of course, known for having owned a top football club here in England, but is also a very, very big tennis fan. And I'm delighted to say the two of us have become the three of us, because joining us live in studio this morning is top player, top Aussie, top man, Nick Kyrgios is with us. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
I tried to give you the big introduction, but you don't really need one.
I mean, look, I've had a few big introductions, but I actually like it when it's just nice and calm. To be
brilliant,
honest. Yeah,
brilliant. Well, we're nice and calm having you in here today. You were saying to me earlier, Simon, how much you're looking forward to this, and we'll see how it goes. But you're anticipating a good old chat over the next hour with Nick.
Well, I mean, at least from perception point of view, he's an intriguing character, isn't he?
Yeah.
A remarkably talented tennis player that I think probably should have done more with his game.
Mm-hmm.
But notwithstanding that, when he speaks, he says the things that he speaks. He says the things that he thinks. Now, some people won't like him, and there's been things that he said that I think, mate, pack it in. But they're characters, and the world's not got enough of them.
Well, exactly. I don't want to start in a negative, but I'll start about you and injuries.
Yep.
I mean, less than a week out, Nick, from Wimbledon. You're no stranger to SW19 and the grass courts, but injuries have been an issue for you in recent times, and you won't be playing next week. So where are you at the moment? Because we want to see you out there.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bit of a knee injury maybe like 15 days ago, and obviously it was heartbreaking because, you know, Wimbledon's my favourite event, and it's pretty much all I play for, to be honest. Every year it's circled in the calendar. So it's heartbreaking not playing, but even just being around the event, and I'm doing a lot of work for the media and doing a lot of exciting things, and I still feel like I can give a lot to the game of tennis. Even if I'm not playing, you know, I can analyse it, commentate on it, and I really just enjoy being around it these couple of weeks.
I love the fact he's doing a lot for the media, he says. How about this? I didn't know this, Simon. Earlier this week, you recorded a live episode of your podcast, Good Trouble, in front of an audience at Wimbledon. Previous episodes, Nick has hosted the likes of Piers Morgan, we know him, Mike Tyson, we know him, John McEnroe, we know him. I mean, in actual fact, McEnroe's one of your faves, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And I spent a nice afternoon having a whiskey sour with him and a Georges Shank in the Champs-Elysees about 20 years ago, a little bit longer than that. He's one of my favourite players. I think he's the most gifted player that ever walked a tennis court, quite frankly.
Yeah. How did those go?
Yeah, me and John definitely share some similarities on the court. We definitely are a bit hot-headed. But yeah, John's an amazing guy, and he's been a captain for the Laver Cup, and I've played the Laver Cup a couple times with him, and I was picking his brains and learning a lot of things on the court with him, and I'm afraid to say I've never had a drink with him, where I would love to. I think we would go.
But he said of you, didn't he, once, that you were the most talented player that he'd seen in 10 years, but he had a fear that you might blow it.
Yeah, I guess so. I look back at where I came from, where I grew up, and how athletically gifted I was as a kid. I was incredibly overweight. And I look back at the history of my parents and what they did to sacrifice, and I look back of my career, and I say I've overachieved, to be honest, where I came from. So it's all about perspective. I think that I played the game since I was 7 years old. I did work incredibly hard, and this whole journey has been an amazing one. Just being here with you guys, talking, doing my live, my Good Trouble with all these amazing guests, being on centre court of Wimbledon. It's I look at it in my eyes like I've overachieved.
See, I'm intrigued by that, Nick. When did it start for you? How did it start for you? This journey that you're talking about.
I played basketball growing up, and then at 14, my parents kind of said, you have to give it away. We're going to put all the eggs in the tennis basket, and I guess that was our way out, and they had incredible faith in me that I was going to, I guess, make it to the top level. And I didn't really like tennis, to be honest. I didn't fit in. I didn't really enjoy the people that were involved with tennis. And I just kept playing, and they believed in me, and here we are, and it's just all been a bonus, to be honest.
Why did you not fit in? Who did you not enjoy?
I guess, when I came on the scene, I played Rafa Nadal when I was 19, and I beat him at Wimbledon, and my life changed forever. And I think I wasn't completely ready to take the responsibility of being a role model and being a good role model at that age. I didn't even, I was just finishing school, still lived at home with my parents. I don't know if I was ready to take on all this. But now, being 30, I think I've learned, and I understand, a lot of people look up to me, and it's important to be a good example. So I do my best now.
Do you think sports stars like you should be role models?
Yeah, I think it comes with the territory. I mean, whether at 19 I was ready to do it, but now for sure I look at all the kids that look up to me, and it's powerful what we can do for the younger generation. We don't give up on dreams, and that's why they love athletes so much, because one day they could be in our position, and it took me a while to understand that, but now I do.
I think it's unfair on them. I think you having had young footballers and young talented footballers and watching them develop.
You think it asks too much of them?
Well, I think there's a tennis player and he's a young man, or he's a young footballer, and I think there's a way that they should behave, and the people around them should encourage them to behave, but it also should be some latitude. If you're 19 years of age and you don't know your arse from your elbow, and you're finding your way to understand that, then why should you be judged by a set of standards? That's not fair. It's not right. Role models should be parents and people of that shape and description. Professional sports people should be people that you admire and want to be like them as a tennis player.
Yeah.
But what he wears off a tennis court and what he does in his private life is none of my business. And I accept the world that we live in now, and so does he, which is that the social media world and the digital world takes people into... Once upon a time, you read about restaurants in a newspaper. Now you can see people posing outside a restaurant, living their best life, which is a load of old crap, because they aren't. And so it puts a level of expectation on guys like this, which I think is unfair. But also, you want to be in the big league. These are the rules of the jungle, I suspect, to some extent.
You said it. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, it is unfair, I think, when we're a bit younger. And then, social media, I mean, makes things so accessible. Everyone's, recording or taking pictures. We have to be so careful with what we do. So,
you think too much pressure was maybe heaped upon you too early? I mean, what do you think the perception is of Nick Kyrgios? People's perception out there.
Honestly, I don't really... I mean, to be honest, I don't really care anymore. I think earlier on in my career, I did care. I did care to please everyone and try and be liked by everyone, but now I honestly don't really care. I understand there's going to be people who, enjoy the way I go about things, and there are going to be people that I can never ever get on my side. So now I just enjoy it all. But pressure, I don't know if I feel the pressure anymore. You know, I'm in an incredible part of my life. I'm healthy. I get to meet amazing people. I travel the world doing what I love. So I don't think I feel any pressure.
Well, repackage it the other way then. Not what you think people think of you. What would you like people to think of you?
I think the people that know me and have had a conversation with me and really understand me to my core, you know, I'm incredibly caring, and I'm two different people. Like on the court, I don't know, I turn into this like weird, competitive, hot-headed person, which I don't necessarily like all the time, but off the court, I don't think I'm that person. And I think that's what people get caught up with. They see this like other person, they just assume like I'm like that all the time, which I'm not.
Messages flying in here, Nick, and you've hardly been on for more than a few minutes. There's Spence. Loving this. Nick is authentic, and that's all that anybody should want. Many people getting in touch this morning, and they like what they hear already from Nick Kyrgios, who's live in studio with Simon and myself. Stay with us. We're here with Selco, where the trade goes. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan. Nick Kyrgios, top tennis player, top man, is with us here in studio. That doesn't mean that Thursday isn't Thursday, though. Later on, we'll be talking boxing. Spencer Oliver will be with us. And, of course, Daniel Dubois, Alexander Usyk getting ever closer. We look forward to that. Do you like your boxing, Nick? Do you watch that?
I do like my boxing. I do watch a bit of the UFC as well. I'm actually good friends with Volkanovski. Back in Australia, so yeah, I mean, I try and keep up with it as much as I can.
Sure thing. I mentioned the messages that are coming in, 81089, and you're welcome to send in any message you like, and I'll put it to Nick, and Simon and Nick can discuss whatever you want me to throw at the two of them. There is one from Michael. All right, Michael, I'll do it. Be brave, Jim. Ask Nick, does he not regret his at times pathetic attitude on court, which probably cost him winning a Grand Slam? Actually, that's from Michael in Birmingham.
I appreciate the nice words, Michael. No, I don't regret it because, there's no guarantee that I would have won a Grand Slam. At the end of the day, I was pretty close. I was 2 sets away at Wimbledon, and I lost to the greatest of all time, Novak Djokovic. But look, would I change some of my behaviour? Of course. Do I condone it? No, obviously I don't condone my behaviour all the time, but I can't change it. I think that it made me who I am today, to be honest. I know it's cliche to say, but you take one little block down of my journey and it all falls apart. So I don't regret anything. I'm here right now with two good-looking roosters chatting about some sport, and I'm living a good life. So no, I don't regret anything.
Is there a fine balance, Nick, between entertainment and decorum on court?
Yeah, I think that was the balance that I struggled to find sometimes in my tennis. I wanted to go out there and give people a show, whether it was good or bad. I wanted, someone in the crowd to go home and say, wow, I'm never going to forget that moment in my entire life. And sometimes that got in the way of me winning. But at the end of the day, I think everyone can admit when they came to watch my matches, it was unpredictable and they had a good show.
I'm looking back at a comment of yours, Simon. So let's drop Simon in.
Let's do it.
In 2022,
yes,
you branded Nick a cheat. Do you remember this?
Tell me.
I think he's a cheat. I think he cheats. The way he operates on the court is cheating. There's a code of conduct you expect from players. It's nothing to do with blue ribbon events because it's Wimbledon and everybody talks about strawberries and cream.
Yes.
I think there's a distraction value to complain after every shot and to operate the way he does. I think it's a form of cheating. Now, would you like me to give you the shovel and you can dig your way out of that one?
No, not really. Everything has nuance and context, and I do. I think McEnroe at times. I mean, I'm sure Jimmy Connors would think that in terms of the distraction that McEnroe used to bring to games to be able to unseat the opponents. 100%. Now, whether that's a lack of control on his part or whether it's a deliberate tactic is a different matter. And the context of the conversation, I don't know what the game was, whether it was against Tsitsipas or whoever it was against. I don't know. But I looked at it and I said, pack it in.
Was it a deliberate?
Pack it in.
Was it a tactic that was deliberate in your part?
Well, he's bang on because sometimes, I look at, Novak, Nadal or Federer, like how was I supposed to beat these guys in a fair and square, clean battle? It was never going to happen. So I had to figure out other ways, I've knocked over.
Although you did beat them.
I know, but I've knocked over Nadal's, water bottles. You know how he puts it, like I knocked it over before. I've was talking to myself every change of end against Federer, trying to get these guys maybe thinking something different. Because if I tried to go out there and be well behaved, I was never going to beat them. So I do try and bring them back to, I guess, my level, the human level, because these guys are gods.
So it was like sledging in tennis.
Well, it's not sledging, but it's just trying to do something different that they haven't experienced before. And maybe I needed a little bit more of that in the final of Wimbledon, but I tried to be too well behaved and I didn't win.
See, you're smiling. You love this, don't you?
Yeah, it's a fight. It's a balance, isn't it? Because I think you've got to be resilient. Yeah. I think if the opponents, I thought when he had a go at Tsitsipas, I thought Tsitsipas was a fanny. I thought he whined about it and cried like a baby,
and it worked.
And I thought, pack it in. You've got to have some resilience. Push back. Give it back to him. But by the same token, I'm thinking your talent can beat it. You don't need to disrupt here. He's saying he does.
Yeah.
So I do. And as much as I adored McEnroe, because I just loved McEnroe, everything about McEnroe and what he did for the game and the talent that he had. But there were times when even I thought at the time, pack it in.
A bit much.
A bit much. That was.
It's been spectacular, Nick. Defaulting at the Italian Open in 2019 against Casper Ruud when you threw a chair across the court. I'll get to 2022, why not? And again, Simon, I'll drop you in it. It was a standout year for you. US Open quarterfinal, Wimbledon final, mate. I mean, God. But you didn't feel you got the credit you deserved in your own country, claiming that you were shown, quotes, no respect at all after being overlooked for the John Newcombe medal in favour of Ash Barty. You then shared a graphic comparing the two players' achievements in 22 on your Instagram story, captioning the shot, "Lol, no respect at all. I don't give a f***ing F."
Yep.
We covered that in the show at the time. So, Nick, before you come in, this was Simon's take at the time.
Yep.
He has a remarkable mercurial talent but doesn't actually win very much. So whilst he's got this remarkable talent, I think you disrespect him because he disrespects himself with the waste of his talent at times. And then you add in the puerility of some of his behaviour. McEnroe was an awful behaviour on the court, but he won. So people began to get this begrudging respect because his achievements superseded his outbursts. Ilie Nastase, the same. This guy doesn't really win. And then you look at some of the behaviour on the during Wimbledon this year, and some of the observations, calling people in the crowd drunk and making observations about people's behaviour. Some of it I think is fair play, and some of it I think chapeau, well done you for calling it out for what it is. And other times I think you are a silly little brat that has nothing to say. You don't act like an adult, you act like a child. But I do think from a talent point of view, he's a remarkable talent, which makes his inability to have done anything particularly formidable on a tennis court actually quite disappointing.
I wish everybody listening and watching on YouTube could see Nick's reaction to
because
that.
it's like there was a compliment, then back down, then it was like a roller coaster. It's so funny. No, I love it. I love it. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, I've won a little bit. Like I've won more than I've lost. That's for sure.
I think your talent could have won more.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I mean, has your behaviour held you back, Nick? Is that the bottom line question? I know nobody wants you to be any different, mate. You are you, and we love you for it.
Yeah. But
at times, you look back and think, well, I can't change it. So that's what happened, and that's what happened. But is there a degree of regret at times?
Honestly, I think how much I've struggled mentally throughout my career. And just with everything, I seriously think I've overachieved. Like, I'm such a normal guy, and I'm so normal that I look at some of the things I've done in this sport and I still can't believe, how much I've done. I was walking through, the hallways of Wimbledon with Novak behind me, and there's guards there, and I was looking around, I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. And so I just, maybe I could have done better, but at the same time,
that's the component part that observers like me can't comment on. I look at his talent. For me, there's no greater waste than a talent at that level, because I think he was a remarkable talent.
Yeah.
But the component part of mentality, absolutely. But my observation, which is blunt and to the point, is when you've got this level of talent, you should be winning things, and you have the capacity to win it. So why aren't you winning it? But I spent time with Federer and watched him. I spent time with Novak Djokovic because his brother lived next door to me in Marbella.
Yeah.
And I see their mentality. And so one part I can't comment on is the mentality. Now, what he's doing is walking you backwards into his mentality, saying, I don't think I should have been here. Yeah. If I was in his camp as his manager, I'd be going, yes, you damn well should, son. You should be there more.
Nick, you know the mental side of it, and you've had your struggles with that. How much does that come from the pressures of the sport?
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, social media, when I was a 19, 20-year-old, there was a lot of negativity coming my way early on in my career, and I think I struggled with that. I took it very personal, and it did affect my mental health and just how I thought about myself. I'd wake up and I would start believing some of these comments, and I was like, maybe I am a waste of talent, and maybe I did start believing it. And then it took me a while to get over it and get to this point of having thick skin and growing up through it, but it wasn't easy. And that's
coaches. What are they saying to you? Who's in and around you? I
have an incredible team now. Yeah. An incredible team.
But back then,
I was changing coaches here and there. I was changing management, and it was a bit loose, and I didn't really have a tight knit team that I do now. Yeah. And I'm very close to my family now, so now I take it with a grain of salt, and
you're wiser and older now, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. But
am I right, Nick? And I'm sure you'll be able to tell me if I'm not or if I am. You spent a night in a psychiatric ward.
When you were playing.
At Wimbledon,
2019. I went there and then I had to play Nadal.
Was there a worry about you self-harming?
It was everything. At the time, I had someone in my team that wasn't. He's not in my team at the moment, but he was concerned about my behaviour, and yeah, I went there, and then I was told to try and stay overnight and do all that, but I had to play Nadal the next day, so I couldn't really.
You were playing Nadal the next day?
Yeah.
What was that experience like, being in there?
It was okay. I mean, it was good. Like, I just had to do a couple things that, a couple questionnaires, and then they were just kind of observing me and doing that. But I had to go play Nadal the next day, so I couldn't really.
How did you get on?
I lost in 4 sets.
Yeah.
I had chances though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good match.
I really like you, Nick, but I'll put this to you, mate. Were you wearing compression sleeves?
Yep.
To hide the scars?
Yeah.
That you'd inflicted upon yourself?
Yeah, I had to wear an arm sleeve. I didn't want to go out on centre court at Wimbledon, having all those kind of things on my arm. But yeah, I just wore an arm sleeve. I look back at those times, that was like 6 years ago, and I look back, and that's what I'm saying. I think sitting here now and then having that year in 2022 from that, I mean, I'm pretty proud of myself and how resilient I was to get out of that and still continue and reach some highs of the sport as well.
Oh, mate, I think you're so right to be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
I think you'll be an inspiration to many of our listeners today, Nick, who maybe take to heart, Simon, what they see about themselves on social media. This fellow always says to me, power through it, be robust. And you're right, Simon. You've always had that, mate.
Yeah.
But it's not that easy for a lot of people, Nick. And we'll maybe get into the social media aspect of everything. You're sensational, mate. It's great having you on board this morning. Nick Kyrgios. So many messages coming in. I won't let you down. I'll get to a lot of them the other side of the bulletin at 11 o'clock.
Can they do it? Can the Young Lions win back-to-back European Championships for the first time in 41 years? They're still the place in Saturday's final against Germany thanks to a 2-1 win over the Netherlands. Former England youth coach Ian Foster reckons it's a daunting prospect for the Germans.
I think what you find is that not many nations want to play us.
Yeah.
So the Germans will be looking, thinking, I'm not sure we wanted England to get through that tie. I think it'll be quite an even game. Looking at Germany, they look really, really strong. I don't think you can take anything from the group stage where both teams left a load of players out.
There's been a lot of chat about that team and the form of Harvey Elliott. talkSPORT's Henry Winter wonders if he's making Arne Slot think again about selling him.
Well, yeah, we love putting players in the shop window, but maybe Liverpool and Arne Slot will look at him, his character, the way he's responded, the goals. I mean, he's playing against significant opponents here. He's not up against a bunch of Sunday leaguers. These are all internationals.
The final will be live on talkSPORT this Saturday evening. Now, questions are still reigning supreme over what Arsenal Arsenal are planning this summer. We understand they've agreed a fee with Brentford over midfielder Christian Norgard, but a new development in the Benjamin Šeško saga. He's apparently followed the Gunners on Instagram, but that took a bit of explaining to Alan Brazil on breakfast.
That's the thing now in today's age, Al. If you follow someone on Instagram, it's a thing. It's a match. I'm not even kidding you. It must mean something.
So that means, no.
Like
so if I followed you, do you know what I mean?
There's something there.
Yeah, there's something there, mate.
Now to the Lions, where Andy Farrell's named 13 changes for the side to take on Western Force this weekend. Ireland hooker Dan Sheehan comes in to captain the side, while Sione Tuipulotu and Tyke Byrne are the only players to keep their place from the defeat to Argentina. The Lions' first game down under is live on talkSPORT on Saturday morning. And do you fancy boogieing on down with Gianni Infantino and some of the biggest names at FIFA? Well, good news. FIFA's throwing a celebration party for the Club World Cup in New York, and just how successful it's been. One snag, it'll cost you somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 to go. Or you could stay in the UK and listen to the tournament live on talkSPORT. Man City v Juventus next up tonight from 7.
Good morning, everybody. Just gone at 11 o'clock. This is Thursday, June the 26th. We are flying through the month of June. Who's going to win the Club World Cup over in the US? Manchester City in action tonight up against Juventus. We look forward to that. That is a game, Simon, isn't it? Even Danny Murphy would say, yeah, that's a game. Might well watch that one. Many of you watching us live on YouTube and your smart TV, and so many of you listening live in talkSPORT, and we're thrilled at that because we have a special guy and a special guest in here this morning, and we're only halfway through the hour. Nick Kyrgios, top tennis player, top Aussie, top man, is with us here in studio. Jim, there is Tom in Wakefield. What an incredible guy this is. Just tuned in. Can't stay away from it. Loving what I'm hearing. Nick Kyrgios. There is Tim from Hyde-Nick.
Thanks,
I love
Tim.
Nick because he is no slobbering sycophant. Oh, that was nice of you. Nick says what he means and talks honestly. So, Nick, there's a lot of love for you out there, mate. And we still got half an hour to go and a lot to get through. There's one just in the passing. Who was your own favourite player? Did you say that in the past? Was it McEnroe?
I think Joe Wilfred Songa was the first player I really enjoyed. Same sort of game style, like big serve, big forehand. But I think every tennis player kind of emulates Roger. I think everyone just, if you pick up a tennis racket, it's hard not to idolise Roger. Like, he was just the perfect tennis player. And I think without Roger, there's no Rafa and there's no Novak. You know, those two were trying to chase his achievements and chase him down. So he's probably like the Michael Jordan of tennis for sure.
Yeah, there's Alan. Just a quick one. Who's been your toughest opponent?
If everyone's playing their best, I think Roger I struggled with probably the most. He just is so aggressive and he stole so much time away, and he made you feel like the tennis court was incredibly small. But look, Rafa and Novak are incredibly tough opponents, but Federer was probably the hardest to play.
Yeah. These days, and we get round to talking about it almost inevitably because of social media. Everybody's on it. Everybody looks at it. Last night, I don't know about you, Simon, I was sitting in front of the telly and I was watching, it was Borussia Dortmund in action. It wasn't the greatest game. I get my phone in my hand and I'm scrolling, thinking, what? Like my eyes are like popping out my head. And I've been doing it for about an hour and I wasn't even aware I was doing it. We're all into social media these days, Nick. Britain's Katie Boulder has been discussing the social media abuse she receives online, much of which has been linked to betting. When punters lose out, when she doesn't win, or it's down to her result. And we've seen the likes of Emma Raducanu face threats and stalking issues at tournaments in recent times, on occasion starting on social media. I mean, you have to have the thickest of thick skins, don't you, Nick, these days? How do you cope with it? How do you continue to cope with it?
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, the one solution is maybe don't manage your accounts. But these days, you know, these athletes have so much going on, whether it's on the court, off the court. They make money from social media, so we have to kind of be in touch with it as well. But it really is hard, you know, for someone like, you know, Katie Bolton now playing some amazing tennis, and then someone like Emma Raducanu. She won a Grand Slam at 19 years of age, and you know, what comes with that is a lot of things off the court, a lot of sponsorships, a lot of brand deals, but it comes with a lot of crazy people. You know, as you said, stalkers, people that are betting on her. And it's a lot for a young woman to have on her shoulders at this day and age. And you can see how much of a toll it takes on her. You know, she loses a match and you can see already she's probably thinking about all the things, all the negativity that's coming. So honestly, I don't have the answer for it. You know, I deal with it as well. When I lose, I'm dealing with all these, you know, people that are abusing us in the chats about, you know, them losing money, and I don't know what the solution is. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it is ultimately resilience, and don't read this nonsense, because as you get older, you're older now and wiser, and when you're younger, who cares what a random thinks of you, really? And as you're older and wiser, you begin to realise that. When you're younger, you take it literally. But I suppose it's just building up the coping skills of paying attention to what you're doing, getting a circuit of people around you that are very valuable, and only taking notice of what they say.
I've always been like it, Nick. Like Simon says, you know, like, who cares what anybody really says about you? They don't know you.
Yep.
I've had people in the street tell me what they think of me to my face.
Yeah.
But you walk on. Doesn't change your day.
Yeah.
And they can say what they want.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, most of these people that are saying negative comments to me in social media wouldn't come up to me in person and say it.
Well,
so
they probably come and ask for an autograph.
Yeah, they probably would, or a photo or something like that. Yeah. So you know, you're right. Maybe you just got to ignore it and try and move past it. But when it gets to the point of someone, you know, showing up to your matches and stalking you and stuff, that's a different level of.
Yeah. I wonder what you thought of Emma Raducanu in 2021. Of course, she won the US Open title, became the first qualifier to win the Grand Slam. In 2023, Emma said, "Sometimes I wish to myself I'd never won the US Open," when she speaks about her physical and mental struggles since then. Does your heart go out to her on that one? Or would you say, if you had time with Emma, well, look, maybe this is how you should go about it? Not that I'm saying that you're here to give tuition to people, but you coped with a lot when you were 19, as you told us earlier.
Yeah, I think, you know, I do. My heart does go out to her, because I look at that run. You know, I remember I was watching it on TV, and she was smiling and enjoying her tennis so much, and that whole 2 weeks for her was just something. It was an incredible journey, and then she won the US Open, obviously, and then ever since then, you know, I've seen her kind of enjoy her tennis, but I've never really seen her smile, I guess, and really enjoy the tennis as she did when she won the tournament. And whether or not it's you know, external pressure, I don't know what's going on, but you know, I just, at the end of the day, we play sport because we loved it, and we just want to go out there and compete and give people entertainment. So I hope that she figures out, you know, what's wrong and what's going on there. I hope she finds the answers, but I completely understand. Sometimes, I mean, it just comes with the territory, I guess. You can't ignore it. So.
Yeah, I was surprised, Simon. I think I mentioned this to you. I went to the final, the women's singles final at Roland Garros a couple of years ago. Took the Eurostar Nick from St Pancras, and there was Emma travelling on her own, and people recognised her, and she was slightly uneasy with it, kept her head down, kept moving.
Yeah.
And I've often wondered, I wonder if she listened the day you and I were talking about her. We've spoken about her on a number of occasions. Yeah. And you were strong, saying, forget all the catwalk stuff and turning up to other events that are non-tennis related. Yeah. Get on with your game. Well, I've often wondered, would she have listened to that?
But I thought that was the right advice, because I felt that I've had superstar footballers in my academy, Victor Moses and people of that nature that have gone on to play for the biggest clubs in England. Yeah. And I didn't want them in the media. I didn't want them exposed to red carpet stuff. I didn't want them doing things that, not because I didn't want them to be successful, because I thought there was a time for that. She just won the US Open. She'd played the kind of tennis that you can't repeat very often, because she'd hit the ball so hard, whenever she wanted, it landed. And you won't play that tennis all the time, because the margins are so small in that way of playing. And she played a brilliant tournament, and she was fortunate with the draw, but she still did what she did. But to go to the Met Ball and all that stuff, and I could see the leeches coming in, I could see all the marketing guys, all the PR guys coming in and sucking the life out of this kid. And I didn't want it for her. And so when I saw her on a red carpet, literally, and leaving, her parents couldn't get over there because it was during COVID. Yeah. So she's over in New York on her own. And I'm thinking, get back on a plane, get back to the people that are valuable, not these people that are going to go, on you and start to suck the life out of you and distract you. And I thought that was the wrong thing to do, not her tennis. Then, of course, after that, you've seen her go through this journey. She can't really mean, and she doesn't really mean, I wouldn't think. In the years to come, she'll think back and think, I'm glad I won the US Open. Not, I wish I'd never won it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's more so what you were saying. It's more having the people that actually care about her around her, not these people who just want to use her for
opportunities for themselves.
You know, I think that's what she kind of means with that comment. I can see it. So maybe she just wants people around her that, you know, that's how I take that comment.
What has your circle of trust been like, Nick?
Oh, I only let, you know, I hang out with the same 3 people every day of my life.
Would you hang out with him and me?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely have a beer and we'd have some good chats, that's for sure. But with social media, I'm not sure where the night would end up. That would be pretty dangerous. But yeah, look, I don't let many people into my internal circle. Like, I have a lot of friends, but I know at the end of the day, I could, you know, my true friends are on my hand. You know, they're with me everywhere I go, and I just enjoy it. And it took me a while to understand that, you know, there are leeches out there and there are people that couldn't care what happens to me, and they just want to use me as an opportunity and kind of leech off what I've created. So I keep the best people around me.
I mean, you break through early when you're a kid playing tennis, and the really good ones, like this fella and Emma, break through early. Do the authorities do enough, Nick, to help protect you? Did they give you any advice?
With me, I mean, I was so against the grain from what a normal tennis player was. The establishments and the ATP and the tennis media were very, I don't think they were kind of, I mean, looked after me that well. They were very like opinionated, and they kind of were saying, this guy's so different. And it was kind of negative. It was a negative kind of, I don't know, energy towards me. But I should have, I mean, look, at that time, I probably should have just had more thick skin, but I took it personally, and it kind of made me rebel a bit more towards the tennis world. But look, I wouldn't change anything.
Even that day that the woman was barracking you in the court, and you accused her of, she's had a few drinks. In fact, she's maybe had 700 odd.
That was a bit of a circus, I'm not going to lie.
Okay. Nick, again, the messages. This guy, Nick Kyrgios, what a listen this morning. But really, really tuned in when you got onto the subject of mental health. As someone who's struggled in this area, I wish there were more high-profile people like Nick, who's just sitting there talking to you two and us, speaking his mind and being honest. That's what comes over with you, Nick, all the time. Your honesty, mate. It just flies right out at both of us here. You're probably experiencing the same as me, Simon. You'd speak about anything, really, and you speak calmly and honestly. That's the impression I get with you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's how I guess I was raised. My parents always taught me to just speak my mind and be honest. But I guess it's not really a good thing when it's such a surprise when we're sitting down together and we're honest. I mean, it goes to show that today, this day and age, it's hard to have an honest conversation with anyone. But this is all I know, to be honest. And, you know, I would love to have a beer with you guys if we could make that happen at some stage. Maybe we can do it.
We're going to look at the current generation today of players. We'll get into that. Sinner, you mentioned Alcaraz, and one or two others. There's a very important one that I can't let go before I get to the break. Jim, does Nick know and like Ange Postecoglou?
I do. I mean, look, I love Aussies doing well and making a name for our country. And look, you know, things didn't end up going the way, you know, I'm sure he wanted to go. But look, before he left, they won a big cup.
Yeah.
And the thing about Ange is he goes about the way he coaches like I play tennis. You just go all out attack and you don't really listen to the noise. And sometimes it backfires and sometimes it doesn't. So
yeah, who's your team?
I do follow Tottenham. I mean, if I did have a team, it would be Tottenham. But I just played a lot of FIFA in my life. You know, when I was traveling, I always brought my PlayStation with me to keep me sane. So, you know, look, all the best to Ange. I love Aussies, you know, putting Australia on the map. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll have plenty more opportunities to come.
More opportunity for us in the final part with Nick coming up. Stay with us. is Thursday, and fight fans wondering where Spencer is. Will he be with you today? Yes, Spencer will be with us today. We're going to be talking boxing. Of course, Dubois coming up, fighting Usyk very soon. That and a whole lot more going on in the world of boxing. Top tennis player Nick Kyrgios has been with us and still is. Final part with Nick. Are you a big fight fan? Do you like boxing?
I do like boxing. When it's on, I do watch a little bit of it, but I can't say, all my attention goes to the NBA. I love basketball, but, I tune in from time to time.
Celtics fan, yes.
Yeah, big Boston Celtics fan.
Yeah, you've got a good fighter out there, Jai Opetaia, we like, don't we?
Yeah.
Wow.
And George Kambosos Jr. is not bad, although he got beat the other day.
Yes.
Yeah. Many questions coming in, and I will ask one that many are asking me to ask you, Nick. Who will go further regards the next generation, Yannick Sinner or Carlos Alcaraz?
This is a tough question. I think they're both incredible players. To start there, both a little bit different. Personalities are wildly different. Carlos Alcaraz, loves to get amongst it, loves to party a little bit, and he's an incredible personality. Where Sinner likes to keep his head down a little bit more, and I think he's going to stay on the straight and narrow a little bit more than Carlos. But right now, Carlos continues to win the bigger matches against Sinner. That French Open comeback was probably one of the greatest Grand Slam finals we've ever seen. Sinner has 3 match points, unable to put him away, and that just shows that the spirit of Alcaraz coming back and winning that. But I would probably put my money on Alcaraz having a better career, but I think Sinner could, in the later stages, when they both turn 30, could probably, finish strong.
What could Jack Draper achieve in the sport?
Draper's an amazing player, great athlete, big lefty, and I think he's got more than enough game to win a Grand Slam, that's for sure. He's super dialed in now, super professional, and I think Andy Murray's going to play a big part in helping him get over the line. And I think Draper could definitely be winning Grand Slam soon.
Nick, talking about Sinner, earlier this year accepted and served a 3-month ban from tennis after reaching a settlement with WADA over 2 positive drugs tests last year. Where are you on doping and failed drug tests in sport? Is there one rule for one and one rule for the other in your sport? Yeah,
right now there's been a lot of controversy with the governing bodies in the tennis world with doping, and I think where the frustration lies was we just wanted the same kind of treatment for every player. There's been players out there that have waited 9 to 12 months about what they were going to do, where they were going to serve. They couldn't train, so they lost their careers waiting for results. Where obviously Sinner's the number 1 player. He was the number 1 player in the world. I completely understand how important he is to the brand of tennis. He's going to be carrying the flag for us for, I love tennis. So I'm going to be watching him for 15 years. So I understand how important he is. But I think for the other players that aren't as important, they're still a big part of the sport as well. So we needed the same sort of treatment for everyone. I think that's where the frustration was. But props to Sinner, with all the noise that happened, and maybe I did contribute to some of the noise, but he's back now playing some great tennis, obviously reaching a Grand Slam final, and he's put it behind him, so props to him.
Do you see it that way, Simon? One rule for one rule for another?
Well, look, I think the economics of a tennis player that's at the top of his game enables him to facilitate outcomes that are slightly better, and that's like life. In life, if the guy's got a lot of money, he can get the best lawyers, get the best representation, gets the best outcomes. What these guys are campaigning for, and it will mean some sacrifice, is that the level of finance in tennis needs to be distributed a little bit more evenly so that these processes can be quicker, so that people can actually get a fair outcome. And ultimately there's a structure, which means if you're cited for something like this, you're brought to book on it, accounted to it, and it's defended or consequenced in a very timely fashion. Yep. And what Novak was talking about and what he was talking about is that. Yeah. But then to some extent, the argument would be then some of the prize money may have to come off the top and be redistributed, and some of the top players have got to accept that, right?
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
We talk a lot about boxing, Nick. We talk about doping in boxing. As far as tennis is concerned, is your sport as clean as it should be?
Look, I believe in the fairy tale. For me, I would never, ever do anything, performance enhancing. At the end of the day, I look in the mirror and I know that every win or every tournament I've won, or wins and losses, I can say I've done it on my own merit, and it's all been from either my hard work or all the nights out I've had, all of it together. I'm proud of all my achievements. So, look, I hope so. I hope that tennis stays a clean sport, and I think that's that's something, as I was a kid, I was 7 years old. I just wanted to play the sport, and hopefully it's clean. So I guess that's where my frustration came from. I've played the greatest of all time, and Sinner, I think he's good enough. Like, I think he's good enough to be better than all this stuff anyway. So hopefully it's clean.
Did you accept his explanation? The explanation of the masseuse?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Right.
Let's just put that there. I don't accept the explanation, but it is what it is. Yeah. I can't talk about it anymore. It's done now, and he's he accepted that little ban, and to be fair, he's come back and he's played some amazing tennis. So props to him.
We've only a few minutes left. Does tennis have a problem with the schedule? Is there an overload?
Well, I just think I think the 4 Grand Slams are amazing, and I think, look, if from Australia, if I was to play a full schedule, it'd be 9 to 10 months full travel. So I think there's no other sport like it. There really is no other sport where you can literally travel the entire year. There's barely no off season. There's a month and a half off season, and I don't know if there's any other sport that has that little turnaround. But look, these players can pick and choose when they want to play. They don't have to play the full schedule. I don't play a full schedule. I never really have. You sacrifice, I guess, a bit of money and some ranking points, but if you're going to play a full schedule, then don't complain about playing the full schedule. Like, for me, I just take time out of my schedule to spend time with my family or friends, and I don't, that's just what it is. So
younger people, Nick, 18 to 34-year-olds, there's been a market drop in the interest in the sport.
Yes.
Does the sport, what does it need? Does it need a revamp?
Well, that's purely because of paddle and pickleball. You look at the growth. Yeah. You look at the growth of paddle and pickleball around the world, and pretty much everyone I know that plays tennis plays those two sports and enjoys those two sports better. I mean, tennis is expensive. It's expensive. You got to pay for re-strings, new tennis balls, court bookings, where paddle and pickle is so accessible. You don't need to, you just got your one racket. The balls are reusable pretty much. So, I can completely understand why people are leaning towards those two sports. I love them. Great workout. Can have a couple of beers with your friends and enjoy it as well. So,
do you play paddle?
I play a bit of paddle, but I do play a bit of pickle. I'm a part owner in a team in the United States, Miami Pickleball Club. So I'm very aware that tennis is a bit jealous of those two sports right now. That's for sure.
That's interesting. What is the big ambition before you call time on your tennis career? You're not playing Wimbledon this time.
Yeah.
You'll probably play it next year.
Yep.
Would that be it to win it?
Look, I don't know. I take it day by day, honestly. I'm not a big planner.
You want to win it.
I mean, yeah, I would love to win every tournament I played, but that's not realistic with the amount of talent that's on the tennis tour as well. I just want to get healthy. That's my main goal, and I want to play the US Open coming up in a month and a half. That would be my short-term goal, but I'm not a big goal planner or a planner in general. I just take it day by day and enjoy it all.
Would you really be disappointed, though? I don't want to finish on a negative note if you don't win a slam.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Look, Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, and Murray won. They were stealing Grand Slams within those four for the last 10 years. I don't know how many Grand Slams between them, almost 70 Grand Slams. So there's no shame in playing in that era and not have won one. There's a lot of guys that feel the same way. Kei Nishikori, Thomas Berdych, all these amazing players don't have a Grand Slam, and they've had an amazing career. So,
Nick, an hour, Simon, what's it been like? Gone like that.
Pretty fast, yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us, mate.
I appreciate it, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Really enjoyed it. Nick Kyrgios, live with us on talkSPORT.
they do it? Can the Young Lions win back-to-back European Championships for the first time in 41 years? They're still to place in Saturday's final against Germany thanks to a 2-1 win over the Netherlands. Former England youth coach Ian Foster reckons it's a daunting prospect for the Germans.
I think what you find is that not many nations want to play us. Yeah. You know, so the Germans will be looking, thinking, I'm not sure we wanted England to get through that tie. I think it'll be quite an even game. Looking at Germany, they look really, really strong.
The final will be live on talkSPORT this Saturday evening. Now, questions are still reigning supreme over what Arsenal are planning this summer. We understand they've agreed a fee with Brentford over midfielder Christian Norgard, but a new development in the Benjamin Šeško saga. He's apparently followed the Gunners on Instagram, but that took a bit of explaining to Alan Brazil on breakfast.
That's the thing now in today's age, Al. If you follow someone on Instagram, it's a thing. It's a match. I'm not even kidding you. It must mean something.
So that means though? No.
Like
so if I followed you, do you know what I mean? It's
there's
like,
something there.
Yeah, there's something there, mate.
And to the Lions, where Andy Farrell's named 13 changes for the side to take on Western Force this weekend. Ireland hooker Dan Sheehan comes in to captain the side, while Sione Tuipulotu and Ty Byrne are the only players to keep their places from the defeat to Argentina in Dublin. The Lions' first game down under is live on talkSPORT on Saturday morning.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
So we move on from Nick Kyrgios, and thanks to him for joining us. Lord Charlie Robertson from BetMGM is with us to look at today's top sporting events and the odds round and about them. Charlie, good morning to you. So now we know the Under-21s European Championship final live in talkSPORT Saturday. England's Under-21s against Germany's Under-21s. What are you thinking?
Yeah, morning, Jim. Morning, Simon. Yeah, as you mentioned, Jim, after that really good performance last night, just Germany stand between England and another Euros win. In terms of the betting on the final, Jim, the patriotic money has come this morning for Lee Carsley's side. So they're actually the favourites at 27-20, with the Germans 17-10, the draw 11-4. In terms of lifting the trophy, we can't actually split the two teams. They're both 9-10, so we do think it's going to be a really tight final. Simon, I'll just come to you here. There's been much talk about sort of Harvey Elliott after his performances last night. Being a Liverpool fan, obviously quite keen to keep him, but keen to get your thoughts from a sort of a club perspective. Do you think if a suitable offer comes in, Liverpool should sell him, or do you think we should try and keep him given his age and his profile and that sort of thing?
That's a difficult question to answer, isn't it? Because the manager will have that view. I mean, I think he is a player that determines how Liverpool win games? No. I mean, he was very influential in Paris when they played against PSG. But, you know, I think Liverpool are at such a level now that it'll be difficult for Harvey Elliott. So I think the consideration is more for the player and where he thinks his best opportunity is, because obviously he's going to want to play first team football. And you look at the opportunities, you look at the quality of players that are in that side, and I don't see Harvey Elliott being a mainstay at Liverpool and a main starter. So it becomes about whether the club can influence him to be patient and suggest that opportunity will come, or whether he wants to go and, but leaving a club like Liverpool is going to be a wrench for
But he's
anybody.
making noises that he wants more game time.
Well, this is that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't see that, he's a good player, but I look at the players they've got around him and I think they're better players than him.
Yeah, fair enough. Tonight, Charlie, we've got Juventus, Manchester City in the Club World Cup, Danny Murphy's favourite tournament. It's a talkSPORT exclusive. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, it looks a good game, doesn't it, Jim? City are the favourites at 4-5. Juve slight outsiders 18-5, and the draw at 5-2. Yeah, two good teams. It'll be interesting to see who plays. As we've mentioned, there's quite a lot of rotation in this tournament. Just a bit, if you're looking for a bit of value in that one, Jim, Rayan Cherki could be worth backing to score any time. He scored in the last game off the bench, and I think he's probably going to start tonight. So at 3-1, he could offer a little bit of value in the goal scoring markets.
We had Nick Kyrgios in with us there. You know that heard most of it in the last hour. He's not playing at Wimbledon. What can you give us on Wimbledon?
Yeah, brilliant interview. Thought it was really, really interesting, Jim. Yeah, just ahead of Wimbledon next week, just have a look at the markets. Unsurprisingly, the duo that sort of dominate at the moment, Alcaraz and Sinner, head the market. Alcaraz is the favourite at 7-5. I think it's looking for 3 wins in a row, which is pretty impressive. I don't think anyone's done that since Federer. So, big shoes to fill. And then Sinner's 17-10. And then it's Novak Djokovic, who's won this 7 times at 6-1. Simon, I'll come to you again here. Obviously, the betting suggests a 2-horse race. Do you think that's fair, or do you think we need to think about the likes of Djokovic when we're looking at the outright
Well, you always have to think of Djokovic because he's such a remarkable champion. But I think they are now, those two, up and away. We've got the following pack, which includes Jack Draper, who's a great player and will have his opportunities in the future. I've got a sneaking feeling for Sinner in this competition. I think the French obviously coming back and playing a 5-set match has often been a challenge for him. And when he gets into 5-set matches, he gets beaten by the top opposition like Alcaraz more often than not. But I think Wimbledon might be a bounce back from this, and it might be that he corrects the score. But I mean, Alcaraz is a phenomenal player. But to go to your question, I think it is between those two guys to win it. I'd like to see Djokovic, but Djokovic has won plenty of Grand Slams, plenty of Wimbledons. It's someone else's turn, and it's the next generation, as it was when Djokovic and Federer and Nadal took over from the generation that they took over from.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie, thanks as always. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
So that was that. In the meantime, it's time for this.
FIFA Club World Cup Roundup on talkSPORT, presented by DAZN. Watch every game of the FIFA Club World Cup live and for free on DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com.
Yep, of course, we're going to look at the Club World Cup, all thanks to DAZN. Simon, what is becoming clearer with every match, it's not so much the opponent that's getting in your way out at the Club World Cup. It could well be the weather. Manchester City going in against Juventus in their final Group G match this evening. It's a talkSPORT exclusive. And that will decide who tops the group. Temperatures expected to rise up to 33 degrees, and Pep was saying, better be ready for it.
But the hot is, it's obviously, so we cannot change it, right? So it's better to play like the last stadium that we played. That was fantastic, but I think all the teams have to handle it. So it's what it is for the new World Cup, next World Cup. The people know it already. But yeah, we have to be ready to suffer. But it's fine. Hopefully we can do a good game and the people can come. Only I can advise to the people, bring a lot of water, hats, towels in the next, so because I think will be tough.
Yeah, I quite like that. Bring hats, towels, and a lot of water. I mean, we mentioned to Danny, but this puts you in mind of next year at the exact same time, exact same place, the US and the World Cup for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Like those two tennis players who played in France for 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's the reality of, the tennis.
Well, they get a break every, couple of games?
Sure, but they're still playing it at an intensity, and they're still playing for 5.5 hours in baking heat, and they do it all around the world. And most of these tennis sports, for example, are played in hot weather. I understand that they're not running around tackling one another but they're still running around at a velocity that most athletes would look at and go, how do you do that for 5.5 hours?
Yeah.
It is what it is. It equalises. Of course, the argument is that the South American teams will be more acclimatised to it. If two European teams are playing against one another, then you get on with it, don't you? Man City are playing Juventus. They're both Europeans. Okay, that part of the world will sometimes have better climates than perhaps we've got in Manchester. But notwithstanding that, you've got plenty of substitutions. It levels out, and the players have to get on with it. And it isn't ideal, and it slows the game down. And the next World Club Championships may be in an environment that isn't America and doesn't provide these outcomes or challenges. But I didn't hear too many excuses. He's being a tad facetious because what he's saying is if it's hot for you observers, imagine what it's like for us players. That's what he's effectively saying by saying, bring your towels, bring your water. But, 40-year-old guys sitting in the stadium watching a football match are not highly trained, highly resourced athletes that are built for these things, will be managed in such a way, hydrated in such a way. And the tempo of the game is the argument about how maybe the game suffers a little bit because of the fact that players cannot operate at that level with that level of heat.
Yeah.
And when we've done the tournament and we've done the rounds and we look at the quality of it and see how many goals are scored and see what the outcomes of it were once we get into the business of end of it, then we'll evaluate it full stop. We've seen tournaments. We've seen Mexico 86. We've seen Spain 82.
Yeah.
We saw Brazil 1970 for World Cup competitions. And all of those were played in heat. Argentina 78. So,
Yeah. Thankfully, it was a Winter World Cup when we were in Qatar.
In Qatar, yeah. Absolutely. And I worry that the scheduling of this tournament should have been slightly better, which means that more games could have been played at times that were more commensurate or akin with the weather condition that was probably more palatable. I was over in Miami last summer, and I saw the heat. And then I saw the fixture in the evening when Inter Miami played St. Louis, and the heat was manageable. But during the day, it was unbearable walking around in, let alone running around and competing against other, high octane athletes.
I want to just lean towards you for a prediction then tonight because you're so good in this area. Juventus, Manchester City. I think City win it. Go on.
Well, whatever prediction I do turns out to be wrong. And some of them I do it because it's what I want rather than what I think is going to happen.
Oh, I want Manchester City to win.
Of course I want Manchester City to win because they're an English team.
Yeah.
So, I would pick Manchester City over Juventus.
Yeah, me too. I think Manchester City are going to win it 3-2. How about that? That was a look at the FIFA Club World Cup with DAZN. Watch every game of the FIFA Club World Cup live and for free with DAZN. Sign up at DAZN.com.
FIFA Club World Cup Roundup on talkSPORT, presented by DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com to watch every game live and for free.
Now, the reunion of the century starts next week. We're giving you the chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester, July 19. Oasis Live 25 sold out, but we can get you in. Put you up for a night in a nice hotel, $5,000 in your back pocket, completely tax-free. Here's what you need to know to enter.
Alright, kid. You have to be over 18 to enter in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay, and $5,000 spending money, all you gotta do is text the word Oasis to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Sorted. Right, here's all the legal stuff. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You've got to have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com.
It is Thursday lunchtime, and let's go slightly earlier than usual with boxing and Spencer Oliver.
He's the current undefeated super bantamweight champion of the Europe, making his fourth defense. Would you please welcome from Barnet, where he is known as the Spencer
Spencer Oliver has rejigged his very, very busy personal diary and is in here because, Spence, as you know, we're waiting for the EFL fixtures to come out. They will come out, and we'll bring the top ones to the listeners, to the viewers, before we go at 1 o'clock. So we thought, right, Spence, instead of 12 noon, we'll go at 11:45. Although I understand, I'm reliably informed that you thought it was the NFL fixtures that were coming out.
I did, Jim, and you know, juggling that 15 minutes around has been difficult in my day, to be fair. You know, 12 o'clock, I'm regimental in our movement, so getting here was difficult.
We believe we had to tease you out of Sainsbury's round the corner not a bit earlier than we normally would. Spencer, it's good to have you on board. So much to get through. I don't really know where to start. All good relationships find their natural end point, do they not? And I know you've been in conversation with Simon in Top Boxing on this. But why is it at this time that promoter Alex Krasiuk has split with top fighter Alexander Usyk?
This was an unusual one for me, actually. It was a surprise for me, this split, because Alex Krasiuk and Alexander Usyk have been together from the beginning, since the Olympics. When he turned professional, you know, he's become two undisputed champion in two different weight categories. They've had a great relationship, and when you see them on the surface of it all seems fine. So look, we don't know the ins and outs of it, why they've split. Will that have an effect on the fight come July the 19th? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's not going to hamper the preparations of Alexander Usyk in any way, shape or form, but it is very strange that they've split.
What do you read into it, Simon?
I go with Spencer. I mean, when Alexander was in here, he was in with Aegis Klimas, wasn't he? He wasn't in with Krasiuk. Yeah. And we were going to do something with Krasiuk, and he couldn't do it then at that time. And that all seemed a bit strange because it was arranged to have Alex do something, wasn't it? It feels to me like it's a strange time to do something. You wouldn't, you can understand if there's a lull between fights and ultimately the fight gets won, the fight gets lost, and there's a change of relationships. But leading up to the fights, it seems like a strange thing to have done. You know, I suppose you're always leading up to a fight, but we're right on the cusp of a fight now, 2 or 3 weeks away from a major fight. Yeah. And it would have been the logical time from a point of view of not understanding the mechanics of why they've done it, to go, well, surely this fight gets finished, and then bang, at the end of this fight, outcome is whatever it is. Thank you. We're going our different ways. Now, of course, Alexander Usyk may simply be the beneficiary of some additional revenue from this because he doesn't have to pay his manager the commission fees that he'll be getting from it. Do I think it affects the outcome? No. But any distraction in a boxer's life can't be helpful. We heard the other day from Ben Davidson talking about the fact that Anthony Joshua was knocked out of his rhythm, potentially, without attributing the blame to the loss to Daniel Dubois by the fact he was very late to the arena. Losing somebody from an entourage, and boxers have entourage that keep their minds focused, keep them relaxed, keep them in the same space. Having somebody come out might be a distraction, and it might not be. But we're talking about somebody, Usyk, who, to me, is zeroed in on what he does. And I think
No
if
matter what.
if it were anyone else, I think there might be a distraction. But with Usyk, I don't think so.
It was interesting though, Spencer. We went to Team Usyk and they gave us an exclusive statement. Sergei Lapin, the head of Team Usyk, and in that statement, there's a standout few words. Usyk reached a point where it was time to build something of his own.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, I think he's at the stage of his career where they're saying that they feel now that they can do things on their own. He's got that power, you know. He's built, you know, he's built his what's the word that I'm looking for? He's built that team, and he feels that now the promoter is not needed at this stage of his career. Look, we're talking about Alexander Usyk here, and it'd be fair to say this could be his last fight. He may have one other fight after that.
Do you get the whiff of economics about this, Spence? Because if indeed you're at a stage now where you are a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You don't really need a promoter. You know, the promoter isn't putting this event together to some extent. Of course, the logistics of it are, and of course, they're valuable in the equation. But when you're Alexander Usyk and you look around and you know your own mind, and you've seen the fellow in the studio, this man is not a fool.
Oh, no.
He's perfectly capable of operating at this stage in his life. So if he's sitting there going, I'm paying 15% of a 50, 60, 70, 80 million pound purse for things I could do myself, it feels to me that there might be some of that in the mix.
I totally agree. Listen, look, when you look for it and you go through the layers of it all, and you try and understand it all, and they've been together and they've got a great friendship as well. It can only come down to that, the business side of things. And what Alexander Usyk now looking at it saying, look, I've only got a couple of fights left, and maybe Alex Krasiuk has run its course, and we don't need to do that now. You know, I can do these things on my own, and because of that, you know, the financial reward and loss in all of this, he goes, well, we may as well do it without Krasiuk. I mean, but we're talking about a word called loyalty as well, and that comes into play as well when you look at it and you say, well, is there more than that? Because
they've been
always
together
seemed
from
to
the start, 12 years.
And a great friendship, Jim. I must say that. You know, these guys are a tight-knit team. So that's why it's more of a surprise to me than anyone else. If I'd heard it about anyone else in any camp, I would sort of understand it more. It'd be down to the business
Lewis
side.
Simon up in Falkirk in Scotland. Maybe Usyk's manager didn't want him to take the fight. Maybe they've had a fallout about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. A promoter with a conscience. I will stick you. I wouldn't want you to go into a fight that you're perfectly capable of going into. You're comfortable yourself, and I wouldn't want to get paid for that. So I'm more worried about. There may be that, but you know, he knows his sport better than everybody. The fact of the matter is, people stuck Muhammad Ali into rings in the 80s when he should have never been there. We're seeing fighters get put into fights all the time. The row about what promoters do and don't do. He may be the one. He may be the one promoter of all the promoters that, above all, is more concerned about the well-being of the fighters than himself.
There's no cause to be concerned about the well-being of a fighter like Alexander Usyk because he's shown no signs of deterioration. He's beat Daniel Dubois already, and he's going over old ground, so that wouldn't fit at all.
That's right, absolutely right.
Spencer's with us. Having said that, EFL fans, be on standby because the fixtures for the upcoming season drop in the next few moments. We'll get Sam Matterface to join us, and we'll get reaction to them. Who is your club going to get on day one and onwards? Stay with us. It's Spencer alongside Simon and myself. Live on talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
Just gone 12 noon this Thursday lunchtime. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it is Spencer Oliver. And we shall return to matters in the world of boxing very shortly. But in the last few moments, the EFL fixtures for the upcoming season have been released. And as you know by now, of course you do, talkSPORT is the home of the EFL. And we have more live football on national radio than ever before. Let's hear about it right now.
The EFL is back on the talkSPORT network. It's bigger and better than ever before.
Back to Ayew, hits it well! 2-0 to Leicester City. Archer goes for goal. He's scored! Cameron Archer gives Southampton an unlikely lead.
Into the far post, it's headed down and into the net. Brilliant header by George Hurst. He celebrates wildly in front of the Ipswich fans.
Gotta love the EFL. And for the first time since 1982, Wrexham are into the Championship.
Birmingham City have been promoted to the Championship at the first time of asking. Davies dancing his way through, gets the shot away, and Tom Davies has scored for Sheffield United.
Van White with the cross right there to attack, and it's in. And Coventry have the goal that their efforts deserve.
What brilliant entertainment here on your home of the EFL, the talkSPORT network.
So now we know who plays who from Friday the 8th of August and onwards. I'm delighted. My colleague here at talkSPORT, one-time Sky colleague, of course, Sam Matterface joins us live. Sam, good afternoon. What catches the eye?
Very good afternoon to you, Jim. Yes, the EFL gets underway actually in just 36 days with League One and League Two starting on the first weekend of August, followed by a week later those championship fixtures that you were referring to. Luton and Wimbledon kicking off the new EFL season. 8 o'clock, talkSPORT 2, the first weekend of the campaign. The same weekend will bring you Cardiff, Peterborough and Stockport Bolton on the home of the EFL. But the first championship game of the brand new season, Friday, the 8th of August, live on talkSPORT, newly promoted Birmingham at St Andrews take on relegated Ipswich Town, live on talkSPORT as we broadcast over 140 games from the EFL this season as we bring you more games than ever before. And it's a fascinating first weekend of the season, Jim. Leicester versus Sheffield Wednesday is the big 4:30 game on Sunday afternoon. We'll have that one for you as well. Southampton are in the lunchtime slot. Also on the Saturday, they welcome Wrexham, newly promoted Wrexham in the Championship for the first time since 1982. Both those games will be on the network with Southampton Wrexham on talkSPORT 12:30 on the first Saturday of the season. Just to mark your card, a couple of the big derbies that really have caught the eye already. We don't have to wait too long before we see our first South Coast derby of the season. You know, I'm particularly interested in that. Southampton against Portsmouth, September the 13th, the weekend of September the 13th. A tasty one for Will Still, who's got a tough start to life at St Mary's with Wrexham, Ipswich, Pompey, and then Middlesbrough and Sheffield United to come straight off the bat. November is the first time we see the first Steel City derby at Hillsborough, who's going to be in charge by then, with the return at Bramall Lane in February. Ipswich face Norwich in the Old Farm game. That's October the 4th. So lots of exciting fixtures to come.
Very good. Sam, thank you for that. Stay with us. I'm interested, Simon, in your thoughts on the three relegated teams, Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich. We're going to be hearing from Mark Ashton, who I know, the chief exec of Ipswich later on. But how do you think they're going to
get going in that one? Because, I mean, it's a brutal division.
Well, they've been there before, and so they know what they're going into. They went through it pretty quickly first time round, didn't they? They've retained their manager, and I think and being down there, myself and Spencer were down there for the boxing, you could see the reaction from the Ipswich fans towards Kieran McKenna. He's still hero worshipped.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've lost Liam Delap, but they're in good shape. They've got a good chairman in Mark Ashton. He came in the studio, didn't he, in January, talking about the fact they've got themselves funded. I mean, it's an interesting one. They've gone for the Hollywood setup, you know, with Birmingham coming up because all the furore around Tom Brady and the fact that they spent a lot of money in the League One last year. It's a good yardstick. It's a good citer for Birmingham. But of the relegated sides, you'd think that Ipswich probably in the best situation. Southampton were dreadful last season and don't go down with any credit. I mean, none of them really go down with much credit, but Ipswich went down with the most credit.
Yeah.
Leicester, you know, seem to be all over the place with PSR, and they've got a manager they're likely to get rid of, and they're doing it in a way that ultimately enables them to take the cost implications of it and dump it into next year's PSR, because that's how Leicester do. They tap dance around everything at this moment in time. So I would think that it's really, I mean, obviously having been relegated, you want the team to start as it means to go on, and getting a start
exactly.
is important.
Yeah.
It's not fundamentally the defining aspect.
Yeah.
But Ipswich versus Birmingham, first game of the season, it's a great game for the league. I mean, the thing about the EFL fixtures every year they came out with me was that I'm playing against all the teams I don't want to play against.
But if you're Ipswich and if you're Southampton, Simon, do you want the new boys? Do you want Wrexham at St Andrews?
You don't care. You take them.
Do you want Ipswich at Birmingham?
You take them as you come. I remember going into the dressing room after we got beaten the last game of the season, got relegated with 3 minutes to go, and said to the players after the game, "Listen, how does this feel? Crap? Does it feel crap? Whoever's in this dressing room, Victor, whatever else. Here's the thing: we take it out on the side that plays this first game of the season. The first game of the season was a newly promoted Luton. At home, we lost 3-1. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's about what the players think and what they're prepared for. And you play against the opposition you play against.
Sam, any headline you want to throw as regards Leagues 1 and 2?
Well, I think before we get to that, let's just talk a little bit about Leicester and Ipswich, because Simon's right. You know, the Championship is so tricky. You never really know what you're going to get week to week, let alone when it comes to the first game of the season. I don't think I'd really want to be going to St Andrews opening night under the lights after Birmingham have just been promoted, and with all of the backing that they've had in the last few years. I think that, interestingly for Ipswich, they then have a game very quickly against Derby County, one against Southampton in the next couple of weeks as well, which is, I suppose, a yardstick of where they will be. They'll be able to measure themselves against Southampton. Leicester, we already mentioned, you know, likely to be under new management. We don't even know what's happening there at the moment. They start at home, then 2 tricky away games at Preston, and newly promoted Charlton, who are back in the Championship. They look like they've got a tough Christmas and New Year period. Sheffield United, now with Ruben Selles in charge instead of Chris Wilder, they start with a home game against Bristol City. They've got Gerhard Struber in place now. Then the Blades go to Swansea under Alan Sheehan. So many new managers in the Championship this season. Coventry, big season for Frank Lampard. Coventry have gone really close last season. Doug King's investment, Frank Lampard's astute management. They start at home with a match against another team with a new manager in Hull City. Sergei Yakirovich is in charge there now. Middlesbrough have got Rob Edwards, obviously, and they're alone in the northeast now. The nearest rival is probably Hull City. He starts, Rob Edwards, with Swansea and Millwall, and he faces a trip to his old club, Watford, in November. Ryan Mason is in at West Brom. They start the season at home to Blackburn, but they look as if they've got a particularly tough end to the campaign to me. As we know, there'll be a lot of fixture changes because of TV scheduling. The good news for EFL fans, though, and I like this, is that by Thursday, July the 3rd, we'll know all of the fixtures up until the end of September. And then before the season starts, we'll have all of the broadcast selections up until January the 10th, which I think is great news for supporters trying to plan their weekends. You mentioned League 1 and 2. Tom Cleverley in at Plymouth. Lee Grant in at Huddersfield, Plymouth at home to Barnsley on the opening weekend, Huddersfield at home to Orient, Oldham back in the in the Premier League for the first time after promotion from the National League. 34 years since their last promotion. They're away at MK Dons, but they finished the season with a big home match against Accrington Stanley. And Barnet back in the Football League for the first time since 2018. They start with a home game against Fleetwood.
Sam, terrific stuff. Before you leave us, Sam, stay with us because news is coming in to me. Liverpool fans will be interested in this. Liverpool, Simon, have completed the signing of Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth, 40 million quid. Their fourth signing of the summer. So Liverpool, busy and busy all the time, right up until the start of the season, it looks.
Build from positions of strength. And that's why the argument about Harvey Elliott becomes relevant when we talk about his future. He played 18 games under Slot last year, and the previous 3 seasons has been playing 30 games a year under Klopp. So there's been some changes. Here is a player coming in to either push Andy Robertson out or push him to new levels.
Yeah. Sam, let me throw this at you. This probably is like a new signing for Arsenal. Arsenal fans, bit of news for you this lunchtime. Miles Lewis-Skelly has signed a new deal which keeps him at the club until 2030, Sam. Miles Lewis-Skelly, debut season.
Just looking at that, he had a brilliant season, didn't he? And just noticed that has dropped in the last couple of minutes on the Arsenal website as well. They're just saying now that he has signed a new contract, which is brilliant for him and brilliant for Arsenal, really, as well. Howland graduate, now an England international, scored on his debut. The 18-year-old definitely enjoying a breakthrough season last campaign. He joined the club as an 8-year-old, went on to play an instrumental role in each of the age group teams. He rose to prominence during the 2022-23 season when he scored a late winner for the under-18s in a memorable FA Youth Cup semi-final against Manchester City. And then 6 months later, he's signing a new professional contract, just turning 17, and he ends up making 39 first-team appearances in all competitions after making his debut in that 2-2 draw against Manchester City. No doubt that 2024-25 was a breakthrough season for Miles Lewis-Skelly, and I think, Arsenal fans will be absolutely delighted that he's committed his future to the club because he's a terrific prospect. He's played really well both for club and international teams over the course of the last year. And it's one of the success stories, another of the success stories from the Howland Academy.
Sam, thank you very much indeed. Best in the business, Sam Matterface. As you know by now, talkSPORT, the home of the EFL, and we have more live football on national radio than ever before. The EFL fixtures released this lunchtime, back with boxing, and Spencer Oliver has been sitting very quietly and listening to all the EFL news. You happy you now know who plays who in the opening day?
Oh, very happy.
Yeah. Spencer, thank you for that for that short but quite direct answer.
That's about as much as I could give you, if I'm totally honest with you.
Here's one for you as we head towards the break, Spence. After a year away from the ring, Deontay Wilder back tomorrow night to face Tyrrell Herndon in Kansas. I've been to Kansas. What's your take on that? Is this an easy one for Wilder's return?
It should be an easy one for Wilder's return. Tyrrell Herndon lost in 2023 to Richard Torres Jr., who was a 6-0 prospect coming through, and he was taken apart in a couple of rounds. So really, Deontay Wilder should be doing a job if he's got anything left. Has he got anything left? We haven't seen any evidence of that recently. I mean, you look at the fight against Yele Zhang, and he looked a shell of his former self. Against Joseph Parker, he did as well. So I'm not sure how he's going to rewind the clock, but if he does, and he wins, he puts himself back in the mix.
Do you think Wilder can find relevance again, Simon?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, again, Spencer can comment on it more, but once the fight appears to have left you, I should imagine it's very difficult to get it back in again. And what we saw was a person that was amputated from his spirit in terms of the fighter that we saw once before. The Fury fights had obviously taken their toll. And what we saw in the Joseph Parker fight, which Joseph rebuilt his reputation on, was there wasn't the Deontay Wilder that we once knew. And it was even worse against Yele Zhang, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Yeah, it certainly was.
So it appears even I would have a chance against Tyrrell Herndon, whether it's in Kansas or not, although I'm not so sure about that. Good luck to Deontay tomorrow. When is it? A year away? Yeah, tomorrow night. Wilder back in the ring, and we'll see how he does. A lot to get through between now and 1 o'clock with Spencer Oliver, who joins us live on the show this lunchtime. Now that the EFL fixtures are released, and we know all about them. Thanks to Sam Matterface for joining us. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
Now then, the reunion of the century starts next week. We're giving you the chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester, July 19. Oasis Live 25 sold out, but we can get you in. Alongside the tickets, you'll be in a nice hotel, you've got $5,000 in your back pocket, and it's completely tax-free. Listen up, this is what you need to know.
Alright, kid, you have to be over 18 to enter in the UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay and $5,000 spending money, all you gotta do is text the word Oasis to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Sorted. Right, here's all the legal stuff. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You've got to have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com.
Yes, indeed. Moments ago, we brought you the opening day's fixtures from the EFL. And as far as the championship is concerned, it all gets underway on Friday, August the 8th. Birmingham City, the new boys, Tom Brady and all, up against Ipswich Town. That is on talkSPORT at 8 o'clock on that evening, Friday, August the 8th. And funnily enough, we'll finish today in the company of the Ipswich Town Chief Executive, Mark Ashton, who will be joining us live. Joining us live at the moment is Spencer Oliver, because we are talking boxing. And Spence, we're 1 week out from the all-British bout between Harlem Eubank and Jack Catterall. That one takes place at Manchester's AO Arena next weekend. I'm delighted to say Harlem Eubank's promoter, Calla Sauerland, joins us live on the show. Calla, good afternoon to you.
Gentlemen, how are you? How are you, Jim? How are you?
Very good, thank you. We see if we're watching live on YouTube or your smart TV, you can see Calla sitting in his very smart car talking to us live this lunchtime. So how's your man? How's Harlem?
He's doing well. He's waiting for this moment. You know, he's been patient. He's done it the traditional way. Spencer will know all about that. Little increases in fight levels. He's had fantastic viewing numbers on Channel 5 in the process. So he's had a great build up in terms of publicity. But now's the time. You know, this is the moment where we'll find out, is he ready for the world level? Jack Catterall, you know, real gentleman, credit to the sport, fantastic operator. Absolute world class, and you know, this is what it is. Next weekend, Manchester, live on DAZN. Very, very, very excited for it.
Yeah, Calla, it is all about timing, isn't it? And like, Harlem Eubank has been a professional now since 2017, and it would have been easy with the Eubank name to let him go and build him faster. But you've taken that slow, steady approach, haven't you? Tyrone McKenna last time out was a great win. He won that inside 10 rounds, and you now feel that this is the time, because Catterall is a serious operator. Only just lost to Arnold Barboza last time out. That was, you know, debatable whether he did lose even. So he's at that level still, and this is a massive jump up for Harlem Eubank.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer, look, you've known me a couple of decades, yeah, so you know my philosophy on the sport, and it's when you take a young fighter, you need to go through those levels. You go through, of course, you've got to be ready for, you know, especially at the moment, some of the wild purses being thrown around. It's making a living, no doubt about it. But if you go in the traditional way, it's about that moment, and Spencer, you would have had it, that moment where you you have to test it. You have to test what your belief is, you know. And I think the big advantage, people could say, what's the advantage that Artem Eubank has? Yes, it's the speed. Yes, it's the less miles on the clock. But yes, it's also that nobody knows how he's going to adapt at the big stage. He's got the big name, no doubt about it. He's had fantastic viewership on Channel 5. That all goes out the window when the bell rings. So it's really, I mean, for people who's followed his Germany, fascinating. It's obviously another page or chapter in the Eubank legacy in the sport, especially in the UK. But it is, forget all that. This is the moment. All those blood, sweat, and tears in the gym. Next Saturday night in Manchester, it will be the moment we find out what it's all about.
Funnily enough, Harlem Eubank joined us on the show last week, and he spoke about the opportunities that may open up for him if he can overcome Jack Cattrall.
Yeah, I think it just takes these big fights, these big occasions, and the type of performances that I've been putting in. And you know, people are starting to distinguish them performances, and it, you know, it takes time. You know, it's a big it's big footsteps to follow. You know, it was for Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah, with
everything that Senior achieved in the sport, and you know, now I've got both of them at the very pinnacle, you know, of the sport, and you know, it's great to have them there. That the name is being held very, very high right now in boxing, and I'm ready to go in there at world level against, you know, a top operating Cattrall and prove that I'm ready to fight at the top of the sport.
Spencer, what do you think, having the Eubank name, has that helped or hindered him?
Well, listen, having the Eubank name can help or hinder him, but I think they've done it the right way. They've taken the slow approach and let him learn his trade, and he's improved as a fighter. You know, when you see him now, he's 21 fights in, 9 of those inside the distance, turned pro in 2017, and it's been a slower progress for him. And now Chris Eubank Jr., Senior, obviously a big part of that stable as well now, and the guidance, and they feel that the timing's right. And I think that it's a question for Calla, really. Calla, what have you seen in Harlem to say, right, now is the time? Because he has been a work in progress, and you look at it now, and you guys will know better than anyone. You're great at, you know, directing careers and taking the right step at the right time. Why now? What have you seen that is different to what he's been doing before?
You know, it's I guess it's the $1 billion question always. Yeah, I counted recently 47 world champions, and I think 80% of those I've taken from their first pro contract over the last 3 decades. It's a gut feeling. It's, I don't know, the gods decide you get that moment, and look. Yeah, it's a good payday. It's not life. It's not gonna. This is not retirement money. So this is, yes, it's a money fight. It's a big fight, big arena, big platform on DAZN. But at the same time, it's about testing it. And you know, you come to that stage, and again, I think the answer is he's stepped up little levels, and now it's time. We felt it was the right fight. We were ready to roll with Azim as well last year. And we shall find out. It's not, you know, I can make the big promoter talk here. You know, I can say, look, this is the next Eubank, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's about next weekend, and it's about his performance. After that, boot tennis, it's a great division. It puts him right up there. You know, you've got obviously Conor Benn, more or less his natural weight after the couple of Eubank fights. But one thing just on the Eubank name, this is Mr. Humble, yeah? This is, he's got a lot of similarities with the other Eubanks, but he is, and I've worked, as we all know, very closely with the Eubank family since a long time. I had some great times with Junior, great times, and wish him all the best. But at the same time, this is, you know, to work with Harlem, he's so humble, and he listens, and he really, you know, to learn, you know, to listen is to learn, you know, and especially in our sport. You know, Spencer, you became a champion. Why did you become a champion? Because you listened. And that's, you know, with Harlem, it's a joy to work with him, because he really listened. He said, well, that fight, you know, that's the right time.
Well, talking of listening, Calla, Simon's been listening very closely to you. Simon, do you like what you've seen so far in Harlem Eubank?
I haven't seen enough to be able to give an honest opinion. My interest in this fight is the curiosity about Jack Cattrall and his motivations. Jack Cattrall should be an undisputed champion. Obviously, that's a well-rehearsed path. His most recent fight against Barbosa was a loss. having beat Jorge Linares, having beat Regis Prograis. And I'm interested in my feel for Jack Catterall going up a weight class on the back of a defeat to Arnold Barbosa. Is it the right time for Harlem to be fighting the name of Jack Catterall alongside the fighter in himself?
Yeah.
And the impression I got from Sam was that the reasons why they took this fight is because it's the Eubank name and there's some economics attached to it. Which is why I was interested to hear Callie saying this is not a game-changing amount of money in this fight, because you would have felt that Jack Catterall would be looking at this fight in a certain way.
But I feel that the risk versus reward for Jack Catterall is not really there, because he's the one that's stepping up in weight against the Harlem Eubank, who's sort of gone under the radar a little bit to, let's say, his cousin Chris Eubank Jr., but now is the timing for him. So when you weigh it all up, I think from Caller's side, I think it's a genius move, because Harlem Eubank comes up against a recognised name in Catterall, who's moving up in weight divisions, coming off a defeat. It's a sort of win-win for Harlem in many ways, isn't it?
But if Jack loses, what it does for his career.
Yeah,
Jack then comes up, loses against a Eubank name, but not anyone reputed at this moment in time at any particular level coming through. So he loses against Barbosa. He's now got 2 losses in a row against a champion in Barbosa that's now gone on loss to Teofimo Lopez. Goes in against a Eubank name that's a Eubank name right now.
Yeah.
And Jack Catterall's in the wilderness.
That's what I was saying.
Briefly, Calla, before you leave us this lunchtime, you mentioned him earlier, Eubank Jr., Chris Eubank Jr., you've worked with him for such a long period of time in your career and in his career. If he was to go in against Ben again, would you want to see it?
I'm not going to get away with an interview with you guys without a question on this, am I? So, I mean, it was a terrific fight. I think the weight, and this has got health and safety. The camps need to look at that, but would only interest me if the weight's the same from a Ben perspective, because if it changes, it becomes very lopsided. But again, I'm totally not putting into the equation health and safety, because I haven't got a clue where they stand. I would say if the fight was made in 6 months apart, how can the weight suddenly be a massive different factor? That I can't answer. But I guess that will be the point that both camps are going to be going in on, is the weight. In terms of money, this fight will happen, because that's the money spinner from both. There's talk of a Canelo fight for Eubank, but this is certainly a much. I'm not saying it's an easy fight by any means. It was a great fight, the first one, but it's certainly a lot easier than a Canelo fight.
Okay.
So, look, I think it gets done. For me, it's a question of will we see an evenly matched fight weight wise, like we did on the first one.
Okay, Calla, as always, thanks for joining us, mate. Calla Sauerland of Wasserman Boxing, of course, joining us this lunchtime, primarily talking about Harlem Eubank, who is up against Jack Catterall in a welterweight contest at Manchester's AO Arena next weekend. Spencer is with us this lunchtime, and we're back after the 12:30 bulletin. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the train goes.
Can they do it? Can the young Lions win back-to-back European Championships for the first time in 41 years? They're still to place in Saturday's final against Germany thanks to a 2-1 win over the Netherlands. Former England youth coach Ian Foster reckons it's a daunting prospect for the Germans.
I think what you find is that not many nations want to play us. You know, so the Germans will be looking, thinking, I'm not sure we wanted England to get through that tie. I think it'll be quite an even game. Looking at Germany, they look really, really strong.
The final will be live on talkSPORT this Saturday evening. Now, questions are still reigning supreme over what Arsenal are planning this summer. We understand they've agreed a fee with Brentford over midfielder Christian Norgard, but a new development in the Benjamin Šeško saga. He's apparently followed the Gunners on Instagram, but that took a bit of explaining to Alan Brazil on breakfast.
That's the thing now in today's age, Al. If you follow someone on Instagram, it's a thing. It's a match. I'm not even kidding you. It must mean something.
So what that means, though? No.
Like
so if I followed you, do you know what I mean? It's
there's something there.
Yeah, there's something there, mate.
And to the Lions, where Andy Farrell's named 13 changes for the side to take on Western Force this weekend. Ireland hooker Dan Sheehan comes in to captain the side, while Sione Tuipulotu and Ty Burn are the only players to keep their places from the defeat to Argentina in Dublin. The Lions' first game down under is live on talkSPORT on Saturday morning.
It is Thursday lunchtime. We're talking boxing. Before we go today, we'll finish up on the opening championship weekend. We now know who plays who. And on Friday, August the 8th, it's live on talkSPORT at 8 o'clock. Birmingham City, the new boys, are up against Ipswich Town, who dropped down to the championship. Ipswich Town chairman Mark Ashton will be joining Simon and myself before we go at 1 o'clock. Before that, Spencer is in studio with us. And of course, just last month, Doncaster's Dave Allen set the record straight with a conclusive fifth-round stoppage win over Johnny Fisher in their heavyweight rematch. It begs the question, what is next for Big Dave Allen? Dave joins us live this lunchtime. Dave, good afternoon, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, good to speak to you. Now that you've had time to let the dust settle, you look back on that win, that fifth-round stoppage win against Johnny Fisher. Was that well nigh the perfect performance from you that night?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was forgot about straight after, really. Yeah, I did what I expected to do, and that's it, really. Yeah, nothing really to write home about. You know, we just chill for a bit and back to work now. So yeah, good.
Maybe forgotten about by you, Dave, but not by the people, mate. It was a big win for you, and it's really opened up a lot of doors, hasn't it? I mean, where does this take you now? If you go back to when you lost to David Price and it looked like your career was virtually over then, I think you was dipping in and out of boxing, and you get this massive win over Johnny Fisher. Now all of a sudden there's talks of Deontay Wilder, big names like that are possibly coming to fruition. Can you give us anything on that? Where are we going next, mate?
Yeah, crazy, really. I think I look at it. You heard Deontay Wilder, Josie Parker get a bit excited, and for a few days I was excited. I was like, yes, let's go and do all of that stuff. And then you step back and For a few days, I was like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And I took a step back and I thought, look, why did I get into boxing? I wanted to be British champion. That was it. I wanted to be the British heavyweight champion. I want to get out of boxing with my faculties intact. So Wilder's great, Parker's great, but I think the British title is an option against TKV next. Yeah, I want to fulfil my sole ambition why I got into boxing, win the British title. Worry about the Wilders, the Parkers, the big money after. Let's get that British title. Well, that's what my dad, my granddad, that's what they want. So now I've had a few days to, get the excitement out of my system of being mentioned alongside the Parkers and the Wilders. Let's get that British title won, and achieving that is bigger than any amount of money and any amount of big names to be involved in. I want to win that British title.
Would you prefer that trajectory, Simon, for Dave, as Dave has just described?
It doesn't matter what I prefer, it's what he wants. If he wants the British title because it means something to him and his family and that opportunity is going to be provided, then Dave should do whatever he wants to do because it's his life. When you look at the Jamie TK fight against David Adelaide, you backed yourself against Fisher. You thought you won both fights, and I think that's probably right. And obviously the second fight was much more conclusive, evidently so. When you look at Jamie TKV, all the furore about the David Adelaide fight and the controversy, how do you look at that fight, Dave? What's your thoughts about that?
I thought TKV was winning. I think he would have gone on to win the Adelaide fight. TKV's good. He's a lot better than Johnny Fisher, just due to experience.
I'm talking about you. How do you, when you're fighting Jamie TKV, you go in there and think that's a fighter I can categorically beat?
Yeah, I can beat him. Yeah, Josie Parker, 999 times out of 1,000, I get beat. That's the truth. Deontay Wilder at this point, it's a flip of a coin. I think he's that far gone. I think I could beat him. Jamie TKV, I expect to beat. And to win the British title for me is massive. Like, I've been around forever. Anthony Joshua was the British champion when I first came on the scene. Then it was Dylan White went on to world title scene soon after. Then it was Daniel Dubois. Jamie TKV is a very good fighter, really good boxer, but he's not on the level of a Joshua or a Dubois. So if I'm going to win a British title, this might be the right time, right place for me. So all the money in the world's great, but I can spend that. I'd never not be British heavyweight champion. So that is what we are hoping to get next.
Timing is everything in boxing, Dave, and I think that the momentum is definitely with you. That's a childhood dream of yours to win that British title. You go on and win that against Jamie TKV, and I'm trying to move forward a little bit here. That puts you in a massive position again, though, doesn't it? With the bigger names out there, and British boxing, heavyweight boxing, especially at the moment, with the big names that we know that are in the twilight of the career and the younger guys that are coming through. There's a world of opportunities for you right now. It must be a really good time.
Yeah, I've had a great month, to be honest. I've had a good month. I've been in an era wherever I've gone. Been chilling, been eating. Yeah, I've been doing anything. Can do anything I want right now. Yeah, it's been good, to be honest. So I've just been enjoying myself, really. But obviously, back in the gym this Monday, I want to become the British heavyweight champion. I'm the British heavyweight champion forever then. It's massive, really. For a few days, I was like, let's box Josie Parker, let's box Deontay Wilder, let's do it now. And then I had a few days just to let things go over my head and went back home, chilled with the kids and that, room with Dad. I want to be British heavyweight champion. That's it. And then hopefully with a Commonwealth champion, with a European champion. I don't think I'm the best heavyweight in the world. But if you give me enough money, I'll fight the best heavyweight in the world. But let's get that British heavyweight title one done. Let's go down in history.
Straight down the barrel. I was going to ask you something else off piece. We spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, Dave, didn't we, on Talk Boxing with me and Spence, and we brought up the subject of Moses Atoma and all the furore going around him and the level that he's at. He's going against Dillian White. What do you think of that fight?
I think it's a good fight, but I think, again, it's the right timing for Atoma. Dylan White has had 3 fights in 4 years, I think. Didn't look great against Tete. Didn't think he was at his best against Franklin, and that was 3 years ago. He's hardly had any activity since. I think it's the right time for Atama to box him. I think Atama will win the fight. I think he'll win in good fashion. Dylan White is always going to be dangerous. He's a great puncher with his left hand, head and body. But it's about timing. Dylan White is a very good fighter. He was a very, very good fighter, but you can't have 3 fights in 4 years and expect to beat someone of Atama's level. But Dylan White shouldn't be underestimated, but I expect Atama to win that.
So when do we hear what's next for you, Dave? When do we know?
I don't know. I'd like to know myself, to be honest. Yeah, I'd like to know. I just, I'm back training now. Back training, and yeah, you can I look at you straight on. Am I straight on? You can see my ears, so you can see I'm not that big. You know, if I'm really big, you can't see my ears straight on. So, so yeah, I've been back in the gym. Busy time for the gym. Jack Catchell fight Saturday. Pat Brown, Alpha middleweight. I can feel it's all boxing. So busy time, and yeah, I think it's great for me being in the gym with loads of good fighters. You know, and Jack Catchell's a great fighter, so it's great for me to be around that. I hope to hear something soon. Yeah, I ask Eddie and Daly what's happening. Ed, tell me, talk to me, tell me what's going on. If I do his head in, but you have to. Yeah, I'm excited to box again. So hopefully for the British heavyweight title in September against Jamie TKV, I think it'll be a great fight, and hopefully make a bit of history in Doncaster. Yeah.
Good, Dave. Good to speak to you as always, mate. Take care. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.
I think Dave is basically saying there, if it was his choice this lunchtime, a fight for the British heavyweight title against Jamie TKV or an opportunity for a big money fight against Joseph Parker, he'd go for Jamie TKV.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He laid his reasons out, didn't he? It's what his father's wants, it's what his grandfather wants. It's a fight he thinks he can win. He can spend all the money in the world, but he can't not be the British heavyweight champion. And then he knows he can monetize that. So he goes in against an opponent that he knows in his mind that he can beat. Whether he can or not, we'll see. But he thinks he can beat him. He beats him, and then he opens up an even wider opportunity for himself. Then he can go for the big money because the British heavyweight title will be his.
Yeah, I think that he mentioned there. I heard there was a big show going on in September. Jamie TKV seems that obvious choice, and it'd be great to see Dave Allen get that opportunity. You know, he's a big character, lovely guy, and he's a realist as well. You know, that he says, look, if he achieves that British title, he would have fulfilled, you know, his career ambition. Sure. Let's see him get that. I'd like to see him get the opportunity anyway.
To be fair,
it's a great fight.
It's a good fight for both of them.
Yeah.
Because Jamie TKV has emerged from the, you know, people know him, but they didn't know him as well as they do now because of the Adelaide situation. And now that Dave Allen's riding a crest of popularity, it's a good fight for Jamie TKV as well.
He's a lovely guy, TKV as well. Great guy.
You're out there wandering around the London Bridge area. We're going to release Spencer Oliver 15 minutes early amongst you this week because that is it from you. Spencer, thank you so much, mate.
Thank you.
We have EFL matters to discuss in the final part today, and we're going to be joined by Ipswich Town chairman Mark Ashton is about to join us. Stay with us. Just see one message there. Enjoyed listening to your interview so much, guys, with Nick Kyrgios this morning. I ended up cancelling a dental appointment. Well, good for you. Why not? That was the right move. Thanks to Spencer for being with us as we talk boxing.
Biggest revelation was the change of heart of Kalle Sauerland, wasn't it?
Yeah.
From somebody that was advocating Chris Eubank Jr. to go into a fight with someone that fails drug tests to someone that's deeply concerned about fighters' welfare now. I thought that was a lovely little pivot from Kalle.
I didn't think that would go unnoticed by you. Nor have the opening round of EFL fixtures, and we now know who plays who in the EFL in the upcoming season. We certainly know what kicks it all off as far as the Championship is concerned. And on Friday, August the 8th, Friday evening, it's St Andrews. It's the New Boys Birmingham City up against Ipswich Town, who find themselves back in the Championship, having been in the Premier League last season. It's live on talkSPORT, 8 o'clock. I'm delighted to say this lunchtime, Simon. Ipswich Town Chairman Mark Ashton joins us live. Mark, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good to speak to you, mate. Thanks for joining us. Life back in the Championship. Briefly, Mark, how do you reflect on last season?
Brutal, really brutal. Toughest league in the world, having been out of it as a club for over 20 years. Time was our enemy. I think as a club, we did ourselves proud. We tried to do it the right way, but ultimately fell short. But, we're still rebuilding this incredible football club and fully looking forward to what's going to be a really tough Championship season ahead.
Do you think the gap between the likes of the Championship and the Premier League, did you think it was as big as you might have expected or bigger?
No, I think it's what we expected. I think it's really tough. Even the clubs, Leicester and Southampton, they were on parachute payments. They'd been in the Premier League recently, found it really tough and ultimately couldn't stay in there. For a club like us that had been out for so long, the gap's even bigger. So it's tough, but it's the biggest and best league in the world for a reason, and we've got to find a way around that. We want to get back to the Premier League as quickly as we can, and we want to try and stay there. But you can't underestimate the Championship. This league is tough.
Mark, I was talking to you and to Kieran down at the game, at the fight the other day. Thanks for having me. And one thing that Kieran said was about the physicality of the Premier League, and the fact that the physicality wasn't about the ability to compete physically with the opposition. It was about the going deep into games and having benches that can hurt the opposition. How did Ipswich get themselves in the situation to take all the lessons that they've learnt from the season? I know you've got a Championship season to contend with, but obviously the ambition now with the financing. You came in January, you talked about how well financed the football club was, how you'd done a raise, you knew the realities of the circumstances. But how does the club go down, look to get back up again, but then go into the Premier League and learn the lessons from the first time it was there?
I think it's recruitment. And I think, one of the things that we learned was that gap in the physicality, the physical attributes of players that are required in the Premier League. And so I think, when we look to recruit players now in the Championship, we have to adjust and amend how we recruit players. We need to look at players with the physical attributes, because the reality is Kieran can coach them, but you can't develop the physical attributes to the level that you need to compete. So again, it's an evolution for us. We have to look at recruiting a different type of player and a player with a different set of physical attributes. But let's be under no illusion, if we get back to the Premier League, it will be equally as tough. But we have to take the learnings from what was a very tough season.
Was Liam Delap always going to be leaving you for one of the top English clubs? And in this instance, it was Chelsea.
I think the reality is yes. I think, look, Simon's run clubs before. He'll understand this. When you're relegated, the reality is it doesn't matter how much cash you have. You have financial fair play rules that you've got to hit. So you do have to sell some players. Our recruitment policy was to recruit young, hungry, predominantly English talent that could grow in value. And we made a really good profit on Liam inside of probably 11 months. But the reality was a young English striker who had done so well in the Premier League in his first season was always going to be in demand. So the reality was we knew for a while that he was going to move, and Chelsea was his final destination.
What's the messaging, Mark? I remember when I went down in 2005, and my messaging was very clear to the fans and to the manager at the time. I kept Andy Johnson, who was an England striker, and didn't let him be sold and stuff like that. My messaging was, I want to get back to the Premier League, and I expect us to win the league to achieve that. or get up in an automatic spot. What's your messaging like?
The messaging will be very similar, Simon. Everyone's excited today that the fixtures are out, but if I'm honest with you, I'm in no mood for frivolity. We have a job to do. Add the cup games in, we've got a 50-game season ahead of us, and it's got to be tough, and we've got to be ready. Our first port of call is to try and retain the squad that we've got, because I think we've recruited well. The likes of Irish international Darragh O'Shea, who had real suitors from the Premier League in the last month, has just signed a new extensive contract with us. He's staying. So we've got to retain what we've got and then add the right players to that. I'm excited for the season. On a personal note, I'm delighted that there's no VAR. I'm not going to miss that. But it's going to be tough, and we've got to be ready, because Simon, anyone can beat anyone in the Championship. It's a real exciting league. It's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday. It's back-to-back. The depth of the squad will be tested. Emotions will be tested. And whilst I'm looking forward to it, we've got to be mentally prepared.
The big question will always reverberate around Kieran. And when I spoke to him, he was very positive. And I saw the reaction, because all the Ipswich Town fans were in there cheering Fabio. And when Kieran came up on the screen, bang, the hero status is still there. So is that situation fully under control in terms of Kieran being in situ, running the club for the season and getting the outcomes that you want?
Yes, absolutely. I think Kieran and I talk on a daily basis. Look, I gave him his opportunity when we took him from Manchester United, and rightly so, he took it with two hands, and he's done extremely well. With success brings challenges. He's been coveted. We sat down right at the end of the season at my house one night. We looked each other in the eye and we said, "Are we in? Are you in for this, Kieran?" And he was very clear, "Absolutely, Mark. We've got a job to do. I want to take us back up." There's always going to be noise around him, but there also has to be a bond of trust. And he's looked me in the eye and said, "I'm in. I want to rebuild this football club." We've worked very closely. There will always be noise around him, Simon. You know the nature of that beast. But he's a man that I believe has integrity. He's told the fan base he's going to be here, and he wants to get us re-promoted.
Mark, finally, you're looking forward to, and thanks for putting that straight to us. Are you looking forward to rubbing shoulders with Hollywood this upcoming season? You're going to be in amongst Wrexham. You're at Birmingham City on night one. You'll be meeting Big Tom Brady.
Yeah, look, from the accent, you'll know I was born and bred in the Midlands, 16 years at West Bromwich Albion, so it'll be nice to be back in the Midlands. I think, look, we've just got to be the very best versions of ourselves, let other people worry about how they want to conduct and be. We're very businesslike. This is sanity for us. This is not vanity. We're building professional backroom staff, a professional football club who will work very hard. I think if we can be the very best versions of ourselves, we've got every opportunity to be competitive. And I want us going into this season with a hunter mentality, and I want us to attack the season.
Mark, good luck with the upcoming season. As always, we loved having you in here in the studio last time, and next time will be no exception. Please come in and join us when the season's up and running, when it suits you, and we'll have a chat again live on the show. Mark, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Nice to see you.
Good stuff. Mark Ashton with us, the chairman of Ipswich Town. When Mark left the studio the last time, I could tell that you and he...
very impressive. And, you ask someone a question, you get an answer.
Yeah.
And he's very direct.
Yeah.
He is careful with his language, but direct enough to me and to imply the intent. He's a very, very, very good operator. Very good
man.
Operator.
Good luck to Ipswich. Good luck to all the clubs as he set out again. And it all kicks off, as far as the Championship is concerned, on Friday, August the 8th. It's Birmingham City against Mark Ashton's Ipswich Town. And it's live on talkSPORT at 8 o'clock. Of course it is, because all the EFL action throughout the season with you, through us on talkSPORT. Simon, brilliant as always, mate. Thank you so much. Simon and I will not be with you tomorrow. Alex Crook, of course, in your midst alongside Troy Deeney from 10 as we bowl up this Thursday lunchtime to 1 o'clock.